This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
And yet another weekend of college football evidence. Good afternoon. I'm David Smoak. Craig Smoak to my right. And this is 365 Sports. Paul is back on Wednesday. We have full throttle. Other than that, including Brandon Rowe, Garrett Ross, Andrew Valade, and, of course, you. A weekend where there is always something to discuss. Some teams that may have awakened the echoes and showed life that we weren't sure, and some teams that are possibly about to be or are in a free fall. We will have quite a bit today on this show, including Phil Bennett at 5 and former longtime guru of the air raid, Hal Mumme. He will join us on the quarterback play around college football at for 3:45 today. So here we go. Craig Smoak, what a weekend. Oklahoma looked like they woke up. Florida's in trouble. Kansas State is like, wow, what hit them? The Ireland curse continues for teams. And, of course, the UCF win against Florida was a huge win for Alex Golesh and the Bulls.
Yeah, USF's win over Florida was a huge win over Alex Golesh.
I said UCF?
Yeah, you said UCF.
Yeah.
So, USF.
USF, the Bulls.
Yeah, USF, that was a really nice win for them, and they've got as impressive as a resume as anybody in the entire country through the first couple of weeks, and we see that reflected in the top 25 rankings. And so, good for them, a guy who's been on the show a few times, and we've enjoyed talking to. Really exciting what's going on with his program right now, and that was a stunner. And then again, I guess not really. I think last week you kind of side-eyed that game a little bit and thought, that could be interesting, and it definitely got interesting, and it's very interesting right now in Gainesville with all of the talk surrounding Billy Napier and just where that program is at the moment. So, that was certainly one of the big results of this weekend. Oklahoma looked great. I think everybody got a little taste of the electric factory that is John Matier, and you saw some of the downside sometimes, can like let a throw get away from him, but that was very few and far in between any negatives. He was a lot of fun to watch, and that was a massive win for Oklahoma, the type it feels like they haven't had in quite some time. Even though they beat Alabama last year, it was in the midst of a season that was very subpar, and so I think beating a team like Michigan in week 2, being 2-0, and having this guy leading the way, you're very excited about what they've got upcoming, even though the schedule clearly is going to be quite difficult. But still, you feel like you've got a shot, I think, week in and week out. And, there was a lot of other stuff that we can get into, but those were certainly a couple of the highlights.
Well, there's no question. For example, the USF, the Bulls now have 2 top 25 wins. They beat Boise State handily, and they also beat Florida. Here is Bulls head coach Alex Golesh on the emotions after their stunning and maybe not so stunning win against the Gators.
I started out as a high school coach, man. A lot of people have done a lot to help me get to this point. It's never been about me. And you ask anybody I've ever worked with, I've ever been with, my wife, if I ever made it about me, she would smack the living crap out of me. It's about servant leadership. It's about giving more of yourself than ever taking from the group. I'm living my dream every day. And I got an incredible wife and 2 amazing kids and an incredible staff and an administration that believes in what we're doing. We've got support. I truly feel like I got the best job in the country. I really do. So I enjoy walking into the office every day. I enjoy the camaraderie. Guys like Joel Gordon, who chose to come here and stay here, and Cody Burns and Hoodie, who I've known from being a player to now. Incredible offensive line coach at Todd Orlando, who I used to coach against and respect so much. And go down the list. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I'm so lucky, I guess, to be in this position, but I've also worked really hard to get here. I'm just really, really humbled to continue to serve our players and continue to serve this university. And I don't know. I feel really blessed.
Alex Golesh, after their win against Florida, Miami is next. The game is on CW, on the CW channel, so that is great for them. They had Baylor and SMU this past weekend. We'll discuss that a little bit, too. Here's one note from David Hale from ESPN. After watching the USF Florida game, the Department of Labor Statistics has revised Friday's jobs report from the U.S., adding 22,000 to 22,001 jobs, speaking and referencing Billy Napier, who we thought at the end of last year with Lagway, Craig, and company that perhaps he had gotten off the hot seat. He is right back on it.
But nice little joke there by David Hale, and I think that landed pretty square in front of everybody on Saturday, that Billy Napier is back on the hot seat, or never left it, or however you would qualify it. He's never strayed far away from it if he's ever stepped off of it. So he's firmly right in the thick of the flames right now, and USF, like you said, has got Miami, so very excited to see what they can potentially do, and maybe getting another huge win. I mean, can you imagine beating Miami? And I mean, hell, you'd have to put them in like the top 15. I mean, based on resume, at least. I don't think they're a top 15 team, but I mean, who has it better than them? You could have teams playing like 6 games and not have as impressive of a record as what they would have put together in the first 3 weeks. So that's easier said than done. Obviously, Miami's a much different animal than Florida, certainly. So we'll see how that goes, also down in Coral Gables. But, I think that USF's a great story, and Florida is just a program that is just incapable of finding its way out of the wilderness. And every time you think they're going to start turning a corner, just reality sets back in, whether it's Lagway's injuries lingering like people feared from the offseason, or just making stupid mistakes during the course of that game, like Brendan Bett spitting on a guy. They're a goofy program right now that's not to be taken all that seriously, I feel like. Now, I don't mean that disparagingly. I mean, they can be good and all of that, but they're just kind of a mess. This is not what you signed up for as a Florida football fan in 2025. You feared that the Billy Napier experiment will continue to go sideways, but turning around and losing to USF in week 2, having guys spitting on people, your quarterback's not healthy all the way. Like, it's just it's a wonder what awaits them, because we know the schedule is only going to get tougher for them as well. So what are we looking at? And with that loss to South Florida, that's one you didn't necessarily bank on when you're doing the whole scorecard and what it would take to save his job and do all that. So I think coming out of this weekend, not just in Gainesville, but in a few different parts of the country, it's only week 3, but you can start getting the carousel talk underway. I think we can start having some conversations about what jobs you're starting to eye a little bit, and Florida would certainly be on that list.
Well, one note before we get to here's Craig mentioned the Spitgate, and of course we saw that. Here we are.
Gets into the face and then spits. Just spit on him.
Yeah, that we missed. But by the way, Brendan Bett was at Baylor. He's from Killeen. He spit on a player that was obviously a huge play, as it looked like Florida was going to hold on. Automatic first down, unsportsmanlike penalty. And Jalen Carter-esque move. Florida has LSU, Miami, Texas, and A&M. Then Mississippi State, who all of a sudden woke up. Georgia, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State for the rest of their schedule. And, of course, just a dumb penalty lack of discipline by Brendan Bett.
Yeah, the timing of Napier's struggles couldn't have been worse with the way the schedules have played out last year and this year. And they're obviously just a reverse of last year's, but still a tough hand to be dealt when you're already struggling as is. So it's hard when you reel off those names, especially when some of those now, like a Mississippi State, looks a lot different than it did prior to the season. A game you probably chalked up as a win without thinking about it too much. Now you go, okay, well, never mind on that. And I don't think I heard a guaranteed win in a single team you mentioned, and you mentioned like the rest of that schedule. So I'm very curious as to how they try to navigate this schedule and what they turn out with on the other side of it. But that was a loss this past weekend that definitely put you behind the 8 ball further than you needed to be this early on. So, yeah, just not a good look overall. And certainly when you start to dig down into it and you see things like the Brendan Bett situation, it just piles on to what was already kind of a bad feeling to begin with. And Brendan Bett, what an idiotic thing to do. I mean, just clown stuff, basically, is what that was. And I don't know if he's really from Killeen. I mean, I've come to find out people from Killeen are generally like 95% of the time not from Killeen. And Brendan Bett's one of those guys. I don't even think he's from Texas originally. He's from somewhere else, and maybe in the Southeast. I can't remember, but yeah, he's technically listed by Killeen because that's where he went to high school. I don't know if he's an Army
a military
family
kid. Yeah.
I mean, not all of them are. I'm just saying, I don't know if that was his case or not. People move without that, but oftentimes in Killeen, yeah, it's like 90% of the people there aren't really from Killeen. But he went to high school there. That was the connection, him being close to Baylor, for them to get in on him and get him signed at the time. And I think when you saw him decide to go into the transfer portal sort of abruptly, you were bummed about it at first, and then you see Saturday night and you're like, well, glad we don't have him on our team anymore. I know that's how I felt, and I don't even have a dog in the fight, but I was like, hey, they're better off without a guy like that. Just stupid. And I don't know if that's Jalen Carter related, that all of a sudden it's just one of those, like, this guy in the NFL did it, and now I do. I don't know, but that was just brain dead behavior, and that didn't lose the game for Florida, but it didn't help, and it definitely contributed to the poor feelings afterwards. Yeah. So I'm curious to see if he gets a suspension of some sort. I think you spit on a guy, you should get like 2 games mandatory. I think that should be a pretty broad rule. You can't have that sort of stuff going on, and that was just completely uncalled for.
Yeah, it was dumb, undisciplined, and there's a lot of other words, but Florida loses. I told you about their schedule. The one game you thought maybe, even if you played pretty well, Mississippi State no longer looks like a gimme, in Kentucky, who knows? So those are just some of the games. How about West Virginia? They are in trouble. First year with Rich Rod trying to figure it out. They now lose their star running back. Jaheim White out for the rest of the year, will miss the rest of the season with a knee injury, suffered against Ohio on Saturday. Big 12, all preseason first-team running back, and had 900 yards or near that, and 7 touchdowns a year ago.
Yeah, he's not the only one out. Jaden Bray's also out. So I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could believe it when I saw them lose to Ohio. Kind of side-eyed that one as well last week, and said, like, hey, better be careful with that one, but just figure that West Virginia would handle their business and move forward at 2-0. But no, that's not the case, and that was a ugly loss, and there's a lot to not like right now, and now you add in injuries on top of that, and suddenly Rich Rod's got a little bit of a perilous situation that's starting to develop pretty early on. I mean, it's not like he's getting fired. It's not like the whole thing's going down in flames. Don't want to overreact too much, especially when Ohio is a very respectable and successful football program, so it's not like they were playing Sisters of the Poor by any means. That was one, again, that you looked at and you go, well, they better be careful with that. So the loss wasn't totally unforeseen. It was just, I think, totally unexpected. And now, yes, you lose Jaheim White, who is definitely one of the best players on your entire roster. That is bad news for the entire season. And then Jaden Bray, now you can add to this list as well. So that's a double whammy of injury news for the Mountaineers, and they already struggled as it is offensively. Now you take 2 of your best playmakers away, and you can kind of see where they're going to continue to struggle for a while, and there might not be a whole lot of answers on the other side of this thing. So they've tried to, figure out the situation at quarterback, but yeah, they are in a bad spot the last couple of days.
By the way, Paxton in the chat room, we try to give you credit when you're right or wrong. We will also let you know he picked that Ohio game and said he thought that was going to end up being a shocker.
Yeah,
Oklahoma,
good call.
yeah, Oklahoma State. Whoa, all the stuff that last week with Mike Gundy and Dan Lanning, and then Oregon, I blinked and they were down or up 14-0. Oregon was. Look at this stat. They have now been outscored 121-3 against their last two FBS opponents. And this note, too, from Chris Hummer. Oklahoma State 69-3 lost to Oregon today, the largest margin of defeat since 1907, the year Oklahoma became a state.
Yeah, I think it was about as bad as you thought it could be on Saturday in Eugene. I mean, the lead up to it, you knew it was already kind of testy as it was, and you wondered if Dan Lanning was going to try to just further drive home a point, and I guess he did. I don't know that he really needed to. His team just handled business regardless, but I don't know if there was any extra mustard thrown on top of that just as a message. I was so lost in just how bad it was. I mean, halfway through that game that I don't know that it could have really gotten much worse, but that was a bad feeling coming out of that game for Oklahoma State fans, and just a stark realization of how far behind you are from the elite teams, of which Oregon is one of them. And I think one of the best 5 to 10 teams in the country right now. Just leave that open for debate, but certainly one of the top programs in the entire nation. And you knew it was going to be a challenge, but damn, did that get really ugly, really fast, and just not the Oklahoma State program that I'm used to seeing. I kind of made a slight joke / serious question statement after the game of like, all right, who's on the coaching carousel? Who's on the what do you call it? The hot board. Yeah, who's on the coaching hot board for Oklahoma State? And I had people give names, and some might think it's too soon, and some of that was tongue-in-cheek, but then again, no, it wasn't, because I'm serious. Like, if we're 2 weeks in and this is what it looks like, I mean, how is the feeling going to be after 12 weeks, and where is the program at that point? And I know his son came out and was, like, lashing out at fans, and I get defending your dad and all that, but, like, I just felt like that made things worse. And I started looking into him, and I'm just like, okay, this would make me even more pissed off as an Oklahoma State fan. If was it Gage Gundy's yelling at me online about how Mike Gundy's basically and he's not totally wrong, but Mike Gundy's like the end-all be-all of the program, and he's right, but that does not give you carte blanche to just do whatever for the rest of your career. Like, that's where we diverge, is like, hey, you did a lot of good, but after a while, if Nick Saban, no matter what he did, had like 2 or 3 years where they're losing to Oregon 69-3, and recruiting's not really all that stellar, and you're kind of refusing to change with the times, and yeah, you just recently were in a couple of Big 12 title games, but you didn't even win either one of those. And it's like, there's been enough recent success to say that maybe there's a little bit of an overreaction, but it just feels so bad right now that it doesn't feel like an overreaction, and it doesn't show any signs of getting any better. That's the thing. Yep. So you lose Haney early. Like, it's just been a battering ram of negativity, I feel like, for Oklahoma State. So I feel for their fans. I don't know what the future holds, but that was the worst case scenario on Saturday, outside of Oregon just saying, F it, we're scoring 100, and they could have if they wanted to.
Yeah, I tell you what, think about what Bobby Bowden ran into, what Mac Brown ran into, even like what Iowa's Kirk Ferentz, as good as he's been for how long as he's been. Of course, Iowa State with a huge win. We'll get to that too. You eventually, no matter your legacy, walk away before it's too late. You hope you don't have to for that reason, or you get out before there's a fire. We mentioned Oklahoma for a second with the win against Michigan. They looked the part. They were solid across the board. It wasn't easy, but they looked the better team against Michigan. Here is who they have coming up next. Imagine if you don't win that game. Doesn't mean you're going to win any of these games. Their schedule, remember what I said about Florida, Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, with a nice win against KU, and LSU. These are their SEC opponents coming up, not back-to-back-to-back, but some of them are when they start conference play. And now you look at Brent Venables in Oklahoma with John Matoir in their defense, and maybe they can manage this well enough to be pretty good and be a part of the conversation.
I mean, I'd take them over Auburn right now. I'd take them. I think Texas is interesting because I don't really have a great feel for them at the moment. But that's a game where it's just different. So we'll see when we get to that in a couple of weeks and what Oklahoma looked like after Auburn. But South Carolina, I think they can win a good majority of these games. Actually, I think there's also, of course, the chance that they lose all of these games. I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility because they're playing a lot of good teams. But this is what you signed up for. This is what you were asking for as fans when you wanted better games, better opponents, bigger road trips, bigger stakes, more money, all those things. That schedule right there in front of you comes with the price of admission to the SEC. Now, theirs is obviously a little bit different than what their counterpart Texas got heading into the league, and I'm curious when the schedules reset next year of what those look like, because I think this time last year we're saying Oklahoma got a pretty tough draw, and you look at it again this year, and it's just flipping home and away, and it's like, yeah, they definitely are still just right in the thick of what is a pretty tough draw of an SEC schedule these first couple of years. But again, this is what you wanted. This is the type of big-time atmosphere and big-time opponents that you were asking for. So have fun with it. I think they've got a great team that can win a lot, if not all these games, but it's going to be easier said than done, obviously. And that game against Michigan was very encouraging. Matoir is just, like I said, I called him earlier an electric factory. I mean, that's what he is. And I feel like Saturday night, a lot of people got to see what I saw him do at Wazoo, just against maybe, like, I don't want to say inferior competition, but just not quite that spotlight that was put on Michigan as your opponent. He's playing Pac-12 after dark and doing a lot of things he was doing on Saturday night. He's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. He definitely should be in that top bracket of the Heisman Trophy through a couple of weeks, along with a lot of other guys. But can they run the football moving forward? Because I don't think you're just going to be able to, quarterback run and pass your way through the entire way. They're going to still have to get that run game going, but the defense looked really good. The receivers looked really good. I mean, the only thing really missing feels like it's the run game right now. And so we'll see if they can get that going, but he provides a good bit of that himself. So I'm excited. And the fact that they look good, if it was like last year, you'd be like, oh God, where are they going to be, like 2-8 on the other side of this? But the fact that they look so good, I'm like, imagine if they win most of these games. Imagine if they win all these games. I mean, damn, talk about a resume. So yeah, there's a lot of fun upcoming. And last Saturday, or this past Saturday, was the most fun I think Oklahoma fans have had in quite a while.
The Big 12 had themselves, it could have been, but that means it wasn't. Iowa State with a nice win on the road. At home, against Iowa in a game. If you said, okay, give me 100 scores of what that game's going to be, I think 13-10, 16-13. Maybe you got frisky and said 20-16. Iowa State wins. Baylor comes back against SMU and wins up in Dallas. Utah rolls, and a few others did as well. And then there was Arizona State and Kansas State. And Kansas blowing a 21-6 lead against Missouri. Overall, what could have been wasn't. Good and bad, but mostly not a great weekend for the Big 12.
Yeah, I think tomorrow I'll do my little conference rankings like I did
The
last
Mojo?
week. Conference rankings of the crossover games.
Yeah.
As we did last week. I think I'll do that again and just kind of update those records and dive a little further into it. But, it started off very promising with the Baylor comeback. That was a hell of a win for Dave Aranda. Sawyer Robertson looked awesome. He needs to be in the Heisman discussion right now as well. And look, when I say Heisman discussion, I mean, like, there's 20 guys on the list. I'm not saying he needs to be invited to New York already. There's a long way to go. They're only 1-1, but he's been pretty impressive numbers-wise, and definitely a better performance from him against SMU than what we saw against Auburn. But that was a really nice win. Iowa State, Iowa was, like you said, pretty much what you'd expect, 13-10, walk-off field goal. Like, that style of game is just what those two typically produce. And so Iowa State with another win in that series, I mean, that's one of the other signs of that program really hitting a stride that it's never been in before, because you're winning games, you're competing for conference titles, you're beating Iowa on a regular basis, home or away. I mean, it's the best that program's ever been. So those were a couple of really good wins. And then, after that, the wheels pretty much fell off. I think when all was said and done, you had a couple of really nice wins. You had like 10 blowout expected wins, and then you had 4 bad to really bad losses. And so however you want to spit that out on the other side, and actually 5, because I I guess I miscounted. So you had like 9 types of like blowout, easy wins, a couple of really good, a couple really good, impressive wins. And I think you could throw BYU Stanford maybe into the really good as well, since that's a crossover game. But yeah, you had a handful of bad losses. Arizona State gets knocked off their perch. Kansas State, just a world of hurt right now, that fan base. Oklahoma State, we just touched on. It's bad, and it doesn't show a lot of signs of getting better this season, even though they're not necessarily going to play a team the level of Oregon a bunch more times. Kansas, hell of a football game. Came up just short, couldn't seal the deal, make a catch there at the end, and they probably win that game. But receiver drops what should have been a big first down, and the wheels just fell off after that, and Missouri was able to close it out. But West Virginia, we touched on as well. I mean, those were a handful of bad losses, certainly. So the day started promising. Then by afternoon, evening, it was very much a thumbs up that had turned thumbs down. And when all was said and done, I think it was probably somewhere in the middle. The ACC didn't have the greatest week either. So I guess there's that if you're trying to like compare and make yourself feel better, but definitely some massive missed opportunities and some more shots at the SEC where I'm going to hear, I know it, in April, they always get the benefit of the doubt. We don't get enough respect. It's like, well, I'm going to show you the 2025 schedule. You're like 0-5 against SEC teams, and that's going to be, the barometer we're going to go off of as the actual evidence. So from that standpoint, yeah, not a great weekend. But you can tussle with the ACC, but the SEC is, I think, far and away right now the clear better conference from top to bottom.
21-6, KU can't do anything with it. But here's another thing. They were outgained by about 300 or 400 yards in that game. Obviously, we know Baylor came back from 14 down with 8 minutes left. And then K-State just, they were at least in the game with their rival K-State, and it's that Ireland curse. Nebraska, Florida State, and K-State is right on the precipice of just an awful season. Here are the quarterback rankings. Speaking of the Big 12, this is from Cam Miller as far as his ratings of the players, along with, that's not even the right one. I had the highest graded Big 12 quarterbacks from Cam Miller. I'm not sure where that one went. So take that one down. That's FCS or MAC quarterbacks. Sawyer Robertson, Brendan Sorsby, Cincinnati, Jalen Daniels, KU, despite the loss. Baron Morton, Texas Tech, looked just fine in their route that they had. Connor Wigman, Rocco Beck, and Noah Fafita. They didn't rank everybody, but those were the 7 with the highest percentage grade from Cam Miller, who does this for a living.
I'm going to try to pull up that list because I couldn't remember those off the top of my head. But
Sawyer Robertson, Sorsby, Daniels.
Sawyer Robertson was really good. Sorsby had a nice bounce back game and was very impressive. I felt like his receivers also played better. Maybe they got the message that they were a little bit too soft against Nebraska. I also think they played a defense that's not to the level of Nebraska, so that helped as well. But Sorsby looked more like Sorsby, the guy who was getting some love in the preseason. That's how they need him to play if they want to be a team that is in the postseason and perhaps competing for the Big 12 title. Long way to go before I feel confident in including them in that discussion. But if Sorsby's playing well, then they're going to have a shot in a lot of games because they've got some pieces that you like offensively and defensively. But, much, much better showing and outcome, obviously, for Cincinnati. Sawyer Robertson was fantastic. I feel like I saw a lot of the national voices suddenly echoing each other and singing his praises. And if you listen to this show, we've talked a lot about Sawyer. He's definitely an NFL prospect guy in a league where there's a handful of those types. And I don't know where he ranks among those, but I think he leans towards the top, and he was excellent against SMU in that comeback. And so, who else did Jalen Daniels I thought he was really good. I mean, make a catch at the end of the game, move the chains, they probably win that game. Instead, it's a drop, and then just snowballs after that, and you were playing a quarterback who's maybe the best quarterback playing right now. Like, I don't think Bo Perbula is the best quarterback in the country, but as far as the numbers he's putting up and just the confidence he's given Missouri, that kid has it. Obviously Penn State thought so as well, and then he had to wait behind Drew Aller, so he goes to Mizzou, and so far it's been a terrific start for him and the Tigers. So I think Jalen Daniels has had a really nice start to the season, and I wouldn't lay that loss on him necessarily at all. But yeah, I don't know who else is on there, but the league
Robertson, Sorsby, Daniels, Morton. Wigman, Beck, and Fafita.
Yeah, I mean, Morton was really solid. Didn't know if he was going to play, and he was definitely solid, put up nice numbers. I think, again, with Tech, you're just waiting on the numbers look great. They're super gaudy. They're blowing people out, but you just want to see them against a team that they're more on par with. And then when they play a team like that, for example, Utah in a couple weeks, and I know they got Oregon State this weekend, but I think that's when maybe you'll see more people like really start to show them love, because right now you're beating up Pine Bluff, and so are other teams as well. But I think people want to see it against the real deal competition, and they look really good, though. They're handling their business exactly as they were supposed to in this part of the season. I think they'll handle their business against Oregon State, even though there'll be a slight uptick in talent level. I still feel like they'll win that comfortably, and then we really get into the real deal. I mean, them and Utah is going to be insane the way it's setting up here in a couple of weeks. Wegman, very solid. Houston got a big performance from Dean Connors, the Rice transfer against Rice, his old team. Win the Bayou bucket, and they get to hold on to that for the foreseeable future. But Wegman's been steady, nothing super sexy, but just, I mean, certainly compared to last year, much steadier than the turnover fest that they had at times with their dual quarterbacks. Rocco Becht has been very solid. Not his best, like, showiest game on Saturday because he was playing a really good defense, but he's been a rock for them. And then Fafita had a really, really nice game. Arizona 2-0. I think you probably didn't watch much of that one unless you were just a night owl and you waited through the delays and everything else to stay up real late and watch that. But they took care of business, and he doesn't have Tetero McMillan anymore, but still put up really nice numbers. So that was encouraging for Arizona. And they're a team that's kind of in that middle pack that maybe they start to rise a little bit as you see some of these others fall to the wayside. I don't think they're a Big 12 contender, but I think that maybe they're better than given credit for right now, because I don't think there was a lot of confidence in them heading into this year.
Yeah, again, not many thought they could. I don't know how many expect what the over-under was for them, how many wins, but I bet it wasn't more than about 4, 5, or 6. So nice start for them. And Brent Brennan, of course, he was under a little bit of the microscope. So there we are. And then this note was Sawyer Robertson in Big 12 players in the past 15 years have had 3 consecutive 400-yard games. And this is against Auburn and SMU. Sawyer Robertson, the great Patrick Mahomes, and former Oklahoma State quarterback Brandon Whedon, who put up some numbers back when Oklahoma State was playing very, very well.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of the quarterback stats, I mean, there's guys, Baron Morton's on there. A lot of other Big 12 quarterbacks are a lot of the top of the rankings and yardage and touchdown passes and things like that. But I think the part about Sawyer that makes him stand out, and not that he's necessarily better than all those guys, but I think at least as far as comparing his performances versus some of the others across the country, is who he's played through the first couple of weeks. I mean, playing Auburn and SMU, I don't necessarily believe that SMU is the exact same stout defense that they were last year, or that Auburn's just automatically some great defense, but I definitely think they're more solid than a lot of the teams that a lot of other guys have played at this point. So those are 2 really good tests. You knew they were going to be. They end up 1-1 on the other side of that, but he's putting up huge numbers. I don't think Baylor's an elite football team. I don't think that they're like the favorite for the Big 12 title or anything like that, but I do feel confident saying they have an elite passing offense. They can't say that they have an elite running offense right now, because that remains to be seen. Definitely can't say they have an elite defense, because that's just doesn't look to be true at all. But they do appear to have an elite passing offense. They've got an NFL quarterback. They've got a bunch of really good wide receivers. It seems like they hit on just about everybody in that transfer portal. I mean, a lot of these guys with Kobe Prentice has touchdowns in both of his first couple games. You got Ashton Hawkins back. He had a monster game. Josh Cameron went crazy. They're loaded in the passing game, but they're going to have some balance. And then they got some of that against SMU. Bryson Washington had a nice performance, so that was really encouraging. And, yeah, I think the thing about Sawyer is he's done this, and he's done it with Auburn and SMU, not with, Texas A&T and Northwestern Valley State. It's been a couple pretty good opponents right out of the gate. So I'm really excited about seeing him up against the Big 12 defenses.
And then there's this note, and I hate it for Mark Gronowski, the transfer to Iowa, has broken the record for fewest passing yards, 127 by a Big Ten quarterback through the first 10 games of the season with minimum 35 attempts. since 1995. Kane Coulter held the record through 2 games 13 years ago with 177 yards. Gronowski was a hell of a player at the FCS level. I thought he would at least give him something, but got to give Iowa State credit too, because that was a knuckle dragger, knew it would be, and a 54-yard field goal to win it with about, a minute or so left in the game. But golly, does it matter who the quarterback is at Iowa? I don't know, but that's not a stat that you want to be a part of.
No, it's not. I mean, that was an easy indicator of which direction to kind of go with that game for me, was the quarterback competition. Either Gronowski or Rocco Becht. Who do you trust more to go and just squeak out a couple scores? And that was an easy Rocco Becht answer for me. Now, he had just as hard of a time scoring as Mark Gronowski did. Ultimately, It was 13-10 with a walk-off field goal to win it. So, not like either one really shined all that much, but I'm not an Iowa fan, so I don't know if they're upset or if this is just par for the course and you're just so used to blasé offensive football and quarterback play that it just doesn't really make a difference at this stage. I don't know. I'd be pulling my dadgum hair out, though. Yeah. I mean, yes, give me the steady hand of making bowl games every single year, but every once in a while I need a curveball. I need some points, man. Geez Louise. So that was a lot of Iowa State deserving some credit as well, but it's also, again, just kind of the usual Iowa that we see offensively, where it's just enough some games to win and it's just enough some games to lose. And every game they're relying heavily on their defense and special teams to try to score points for them. And it's just like pulling teeth, the Iowa offense and scoring points. So, that was not a great weekend for Mark Gronowski from a statistical standpoint. And you ask yourself, well, it can't get any lower, can it? Well, clearly, I mean, he's found a new low as far as quarterback play and offensive execution goes. But they were still good enough to be in that game. It's just it's amazing how pedestrian that offense can be, and how many years in a row we've been talking about this.
It's been a long time. Kirk Ferentz has a really good record. A lot of fans of certain programs would take it, but then also even with the winning and sometimes pretty darn good wins as far as their record, and even a Rose Bowl trip or two. But it is hard to watch.
And some will say he doesn't have a lot of help, and some of it's the coaching and what have you. So not blaming Mark Gronowski. And obviously he's a guy who produced big numbers in his prior career. So now they're in Iowa City. You're hoping some of that would translate, and certainly did not in Cyhawk. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and then if you look at their schedule, we're not going to take much more time on Iowa, but They don't have Ohio State on their schedule. They don't have Michigan, which I don't know what that means with them, and as they have the young quarterback trying to figure things out. Later on, they have Indiana, Penn State, Oregon. Those are the games, and whoever's unranked in the Big Ten that they might get, who might be ranked down the road.
So his first 2 games, and then we definitely have filled our Iowa quota. 8 of 15 for 44 yards and a touchdown against Albany. They scored 34 points against Albany, 39 yards rushing and a TD. So there was that. Then against Iowa State, actually slightly better numbers, although worse in some ways. 13 of 24. So he threw it about 9 more times, had 5 more completions. No touchdown this week, but did have an interception. So the touchdown and interceptions just flipped places. And then had 37 yards rushing and a touchdown, so nearly identical on 5 more carries from the rushing a week before. So he's going to give you 10-plus carries and nearly 40 yards and a score nearly every week. And then you're going to get less than 100 yards passing and either a touchdown or interception based on what we know through 2 games, if that were to hold. So, yeah, that's not very – I keep saying 13-10. 16-13 was the final, by the way, of Iowa State. That's just – I don't know why I have 13-10 in my head, but 16-13 the final. Either way, point stands. Very ugly quarterback play and offense by the Hawkeyes.
We'll have a lot more, including the latest AP Top 25 later in the show, a little after 4. We have Colby Daniels, who covers Oklahoma. He'll join us today at 4:45. I mentioned Phil Bennett, Hal Mumme in a second. But this is one of those, I like to find these on my timeline when somebody says something before a game and it doesn't work out for them. This is from a Kansas State fan. If K-State loses today, I will enlist in the Army. Well, OG Sports Bone, I think that you're going to be getting that head shaved and moving into the barracks or whatever it might be So there we are with one of my favorite tweets from over the weekend.
Okay. We're going to find out if he does it, and if he doesn't, no more of these fake betting tweets, because we've seen guys now just say stuff to get the reaction to it, and I get that's how it all works, but we've had people, I'll shove this up my backside, which, again, I always wonder why that was your go-to. That would be the thing that somebody would have to force upon me, at gunpoint, and you're like, what could I do? I could do 10 laps around the track. I could wear goofy clothes to work. I could do all sorts. What your first idea is, you're going to shove something up your backside. So it just makes me wonder about the people who automatically go there first of all. But this obviously different. I just feel like every week now we're getting some, if my team doesn't win, I'm going to do something crazy, Twitter. And then Twitter reacts to it. And then we never hear anything about it ever again. So I'll follow up on this, but if he doesn't enlist in the damn army, then nobody else is getting attention for these types of tweets. As much as you might find them humorous, at this point, nobody's following through on them that I can tell. So,
yeah, the Florida State guy never did have a cup of you-know-what. He did not.
Yeah, there was that. There was the corn cob thing. I mean, I don't think any of these have happened.
Yeah.
Every other week it's a guy I'll do this, and we don't ever see the follow-up to it.
It's also insulting to the opponent because they think they'll never do it. And so K-State,
it's also just
Army had 40 minutes of time of possession, got the lead, and K-State couldn't do anything to battle that back.
And it's also just a cry for attention. That's all it is. Just hey, what can I say that'll get people to react, and how many views I get? Oh, I'll do this. And then it just filters out, but you got your 15 cents from Elon, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't go that route of social media, but it lost its luster. When Florida State guy did it, it was hilarious, and you understood we didn't fall through on it because it was preposterous from the very beginning, but at least it was funny because, okay, now you've cursed Florida State, but now you've got multiple guys and multiple programs that are just saying stuff, and you get a kick out of it, but then there's no reward for it. So I don't know. I think that to be betting on K-State winning and betting anything on it's a dangerous proposition just for any K-State fans out there. I think I'd hold off on a little while before betting anything when it comes to K-State trying to win because, man, what a disastrous start to the season this has been.
They had some things that you saw with them that they looked like they're ill, sick, whatever, not right. And now, boy, the fan base, even after last week, okay, Avery Johnson doesn't run the ball enough or whatever. They just need to win a game. When we come back, Hal Mumme, one of the fathers of the air raid, of course, Mike Leach, and many others, with an offense that took high school and college football by storm, and in some ways, not so much the air raid, but it even's now filtered into how they play in the National Football League, although the average points, 3 teams or 4 teams, no, 5 because of that game last night, Buffalo, Baltimore, only 5 or 6 teams in the NFL scored more than 20 points in a game yesterday. When we come back, Hal Mumme on the quarterback play that he's seen. Also, his thoughts about various quarterbacks that showed up this past weekend that are getting some attention. His thoughts about that and more. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. On Friday, they celebrated 10 years in business. Dr. Petty, Dixie, his wife, among the others on staff. Mary, who is someone that's there day in and day out. We're there to celebrate 10 wins of trying to help men feel better, have energy, and also even correct whatever low problems you have with your testosterone that feeds your engine. Low testosterone can create a lot of problems, including your energy, sex drive, and more. Dr. Kent Petty can help you out. If you feel that's a problem, 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe that's you. How do you know? Contact him. He'll get you set up with blood work. He'll get the results, contact you whether it's fine or it is low, and give you an option to become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Drive the Motor Trend Truck of the Year during the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a new award-winning Ram half-ton Laramie Crew Cab with $15,000 off plus 3.9% for $72, or grab a new Ram Lone Star Crew Cab, $11,000 off MSRP plus 3.9% for $72. Plus, Toyota, Ford, and GM owners get an additional $1,500 in savings right now. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Summer's heating up, but Bird Coach and Ford is freezing the prices.
Right now, get 0% APR for 48 months, 0 down, and no payments for 90 days. Cool off with us in our freezing showroom and catch a hot deal before summer's over. Whether it's an F-150, Explorer, or Escape, we've got the perfect deal waiting for you.
Whew. Texas weather can be crazy. Shop anytime inside our showroom or at bkford.com. Experience better at Bird Coach and Ford.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery for my G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We will hear from Hal Mumme momentarily. Give you an idea. He's coached in Texas high school football a long time. He played at New Mexico Military, then Tarleton State as a wide receiver. He loves that. And again, one of the known founders of the air raid offense, Chris Hatcher and Sanford playing in Waco coming up on Saturday. And someone, Hal Mumme, the last time we had him on the show, mentioned as the person who right now runs that as well as anybody. So we'll hear from Hal Mumme momentarily. In fact, one thing about Hatcher, he coached under Mumme, and he was a star quarterback for Hal Mumme. And, of course, we bring Sanford. Sanford's playing schools. They played Power 4 conference teams, making some money, but also at times scaring the hell out of people. So Hal Mumme was in the portal, but he moved out, right? Is that right? He doesn't even realize he could only have one portal appearance. So hopefully we get him back on the air. So, all right. So if you look at one of the other things we did not get to, yeah, do we have him? Okay, we do not. All right. Give me the top 25. Give me the top 25. And if Mumme, we get Hal on the show, let's do that. Glance over this. It came out, not bangers, the top 25. All right. I know you had to kind of go out of order from what we had originally. Here we go. Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Oregon, Miami. They get USF this week. And then you have Georgia, Texas. Notre Dame plays A&M. Illinois with a very impressive win. They pounded Duke. And then Florida State put up 100 in their win. And the Seminoles, just think about this. Entering the year, not many expectations. And then next thing you know, now they're already up inside the top 10.
Yeah, I think, first of all, the SEC gains another team, 11 of the 25. So that's mightily impressive, and you wonder how high that number can go. But Mississippi State, not even in there yet. You know, if they win a couple more games, they'll be in there sooner rather than later. But Missouri jumping in, Auburn jumping in this week after you saw, two really nice wins, and obviously a nice start for Auburn in particular in week one against Baylor, with Baylor then making that win look that much better with them turning around and beating a top 25 team in SMU. So Auburn, I think, and Baylor fans are kind of like in a little crushed relationship because they had a great time playing each other a week ago, and then now they're kind of, you see it the last few days, and then like supporting one another because Auburn knows, hey, if Baylor keeps winning, that's going to boost our resume, and then if Auburn keeps winning, that's going to boost our resume. So you got this unlikely friendship that is formed between those two, and now Auburn's a top 25 team, and that loss, even though it was at home, doesn't seem as bad. But yeah, 11 SEC teams, still 6 in the Big Ten. Big 12 goes from 4 to 3.
Arizona State dropped out.
As Arizona State goes from 12 to out entirely. Like, okay, I mean, I think you could have a little bit of a beef there. I don't think that they played to the level of dropping 13 spots out of their rankings completely. They were on the road. It was a night game in Starkville, probably the best atmosphere, or certainly one of them in the entire country on Saturday night. And they lost on a play at the very end of the game. They gave up a big play, and outside of that, they were a minute away from winning that football game. So I think for them to drop that far is kind of absurd, but I understand there's a lot of 2-0 teams, so that's a big factor as to why. But do we need to go now? Or we?
Yeah, we have Hal Mumme, one of the great fathers of the air raid offense. Had Hal on during the summertime. Samford in town to play Baylor, but many things to get to. Hal, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. What are your thoughts, if you don't mind, on Baylor quarterback? We lost him again. Let's just call him. Garrett, call him and get him on the phone. Looks like he's having a little bit of issues with the internet. So, Auburn, that's man, they jumped right into it. Now you're right. With Baylor beating SMU, what was a top 20 team. But that is ironic. Arizona State loses, and they're gone. Alabama lost the week before, and they dropped to about 20 or so, and they're already up to number 19. There are some teams that bounce a little bit deeper than, of course, Mississippi State was not a team anyone expected to be able to play well or beat Arizona State. Hal Mumme joins us on the phone now. Got some technical issues worked out. Hal, thanks for your time. What are your thoughts? I'm going to ask you about some of the quarterbacks at big weekends. Your thoughts about what you see with Baylor Sawyer Robertson.
I love Sawyer Robertson. I've been watching him since he was in high school, and Coach Leach recruited him. I just think he's a great player. He's just really starting to come into his own.
When you see when you see his growth from where he was when, of course, if Mike Leach recruited him, you know this. If Mike Leach or a Hal Mumme or someone like that recruit you to play quarterback, you're probably pretty damn good, right?
Yeah, he probably can throw it. That's for sure.
What do you?
No, I like him a lot. I thought he was going to be the next great one at Mississippi State, and when Mike sadly passed, and he found a good home, I think, in Baylor.
What are your thoughts after watching John Matoir? You knew of him at Washington State and what he's given Oklahoma.
I don't know as much about him. I did watch him a couple of times last year at State. I think he's a terrific player, very reminiscent of Baker Mayfield.
Coach, going back to Sawyer Robertson for a second, just how much of the air raid do you see in what Baylor's doing right now with Jake Spavital? And he's clearly had a little bit of a resurgence after the Texas State head coaching gig. Last couple years, Baylor's had a very fun offense to watch, and certainly right now one of the better passing offenses in the entire country. But what have you seen from Jake Spavital and some of the mixture of air raid, but other things that he's doing as well?
Well, I think they've got a good package, and I think the thing that really makes that go was last year they hired Mason Miller from Mississippi State to be the O-line coach, and Mason's probably one of the top 3 or 4 O-line coaches in America.
How much does the offensive line coach affect the impact of how well you can run the air raid?
About 100%. Yeah, I mean that's where it all starts and ends there. So if you're not doing well, then it doesn't matter how good your skill guys are. If you're doing well in the O-line and you're picking things up and doing what you're supposed to do, then you got a great shot to have a great offense.
How much, and are most teams that run that type of offense, do they have to have the big – everyone wants huge offensive line, but we know what Leach did with the spreading it out when he was at Tech and elsewhere. How much – and is that what you need when you run it? Or can it just be maybe not the massive size offensive lineman?
I think it's more important that they can move their feet and that they are agile. Size is great. I mean, and Mike certainly, particularly at Texas Tech, got to that point where his final couple of lines there were just massive individuals. But if you looked at them, they were all very, very quick and agile. And he didn't sacrifice any of that just to have size.
Coach, I know you're a busy guy, but we've had a couple of full weekends now. We mentioned John Matoir is obviously off to a great start. Sawyer Robertson have a nice year. What is a player, a team? What are some things that maybe popped out in the time you've been able to kind of look around the game a little bit?
Well, the ones you mentioned I like. I think we're a little early yet to start picking out dark horses and stuff like that for the playoffs.
Garrett,
but I like what I saw out of LSU. I thought LSU played good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Nussmeier. He looks impossibly, who knows, thoughts that he might end up being the number 1 overall pick, just what you've seen from him.
He's reminiscent of Joe Burrow to me. And they're heading that way with their offense, I think. I think Florida State's a team you got to certainly look at, and there's several others. Obviously, Ohio State's the creme de la creme right now.
The freshman saying last week he did not hurt them, made the big throw for a touchdown against Texas, and I can't imagine he's going to be better. How many freshmen over the years have you played immediately?
I'm trying to think of one. I can't think of it.
Probably not many, right?
Yeah. The thing about freshmen that's changed in the last probably 15 years is that there's so much more mature coming out of high school now than they were back, around the turn of the 2000s of the 21st century. It's really been an incredible growth in terms of quarterback play in high school. And a lot of that has to do with all the summertime 7-on-7s and a lot of individual work by them on their own, a lot of them with trainers. I think that's changed the way players come out of high school and are either ready to play or not ready to play.
I thought that, and it was back about what you mentioned, that you saw that infiltrate into the state of Texas, and you know that. You were a part of it. The 7-on-7 seemed like it sparked a lot. What did then, the wide open type air raid, how does that help a team? Is it you can win with that offense if you have it clicking against somebody that may be more talented than you?
Well, yeah, it's kind of an equalizer. And it always helps to be able to score, and most of the teams that run it can score. So it keeps you in games that you probably shouldn't be in, and it helps you run up some stats and some points on people that you should be in the game.
Hal Mumme with us on 365 Sports.
Coach, I don't know if you got a chance to get some eyes on the game, but Texas State and UTSA this past weekend, a couple pretty big explosive performances. Any chance you got to familiarize yourself at all with that one, or I'm sure you know some of the players involved at least?
No, not really. I'm kind of busy doing this offensive coordinator gig at Centenary, so we had our own game to deal with. So I don't even know who won that game. Who won?
Texas State ended up winning, and seemed like they've gotten now. G.J. Kinney's got a little bit of an edge on his former high school coach and Jeff Traylor at UTSA. You do know Chris Hatcher, and Sanford is visiting Waco
I
this
can tell
weekend.
you about that.
Yeah. Tell me about Chris Hatcher. He played for you at Valdosta, and what makes him, and is he the one that runs that offense maybe better than anybody in America?
He does a great job, and yeah, he's certainly up there with the best of them. He's very, very competitive. Always has been, and his teams reflect his personality. I said Baylor, they need not to don't rest on your laurels, because he's gone into a whole bunch of SEC stadiums and nearly come out with a win. You got to be ready for him.
They play anybody pretty much they also, because of budgetary reasons, they'll, like you said, go into some big stadiums, get a check, and then at times, like Army did K-State, and sometimes we see this, they walk away with the check and also a win. Has he changed the offense up and he tweaked it a little bit? Do you notice anything different with him?
I think he's added his own, like everybody does, he's added his own touches to it, but it's still pretty much the same offense.
What did you see when you recruited him out of high school to play for you?
Well, I didn't recruit him. He was already at Baylor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Mike Cabin recruited him, and I think Mike saw the same thing I did. He's a very competitive guy. He's an undersized quarterback that nobody thought would be able to play, and he goes from being the 8th string guy at Valdosta State as a freshman to winning the Harlan Hill Trophy as a senior.
I know you have a team meeting or a coaches meeting to do in just a moment. Hal Mumme with us just for a couple more questions on 365 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, as you mentioned, you can't really watch much because you are busy, and you guys had a successful debut there, Centenary 42-7 over Westgate Christian. You got Millsaps coming up. Just what's it feel like to be in the saddle with this team and that first performance? So what were your thoughts coming out of it on Saturday?
I love these guys. They're fun to be around. This is a neat little school. We've got we're celebrating our 200th anniversary as an institution, as a university, and so it's we're the oldest school in Louisiana, and we have great crowds. We had a sellout crowd for the opening game, and I think we'll probably sell out most of them the rest of the year.
Isn't that Robert Parrish, the chief, the former great basketball player's alma mater?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah, we've got several pretty famous guys from here. And they back in the day, before World War II, they had a great football program. And in 1941, all the male students enlisted, so they had to drop the program, and they just never brought it back until recently.
What would you do if you didn't have coaching to do? What would you just watch film and coach that way and consult it? What would you do if it wasn't something you could do on an everyday basis?
I probably wouldn't be a very good person.
You'd be miserable, huh?
Yeah, I don't know about miserable, but I'd be bored and unoccupied, and that's not a good thing to be.
Last thing, thank you for your time. We appreciate it, especially with the time crunch with your meeting. When you look at the air raid, what is the next most, I guess, similar offense that you see anywhere close to it?
Well, there's a lot, if you go through college football particularly, and it's getting maybe about 3 or 4 teams in the NFL. There's a lot of teams that do a lot of similar things. And I think we're all more kindred spirits than we are opposite spirits. And, like say the Kansas City Chiefs and the stuff they're doing at Miami with the Dolphins. I think, there's a lot of similarities. There's more similarities than differences.
Go win a game, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Hal Mumme with Centenary College, offensive coordinator. We jammed him up against a segment or a meeting he had today at 4, and he's getting ready to have a coaches meeting, so we appreciate the time. Somebody mentioned Mouse Davis. Yeah, Mouse Davis obviously had an incredible impact on college football. Hal Mumme had an incredible impact on college football too. And you see even teams, you mentioned Sanford, who's playing Baylor with Jake Spavital and more, are doing that right now in college football. When we come back, we're going to get back to the rankings we showed you, the AP among some others. Bangers this week in college football, reflect back on more with the Big 12 and also the rest of college football. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club celebrating 11 years inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco, a game coming up this week, and we appreciate Nick Caldwell for sending me nuggets for what they have coming up as well, including during the tailgating on Saturday prior to the game. It's an early game, game day tailgate at Knox Hall, including live music, family fun, complimentary tastings of fantastic food that the chefs make, and then swing Waco Golf Simulator and more. Hop into the Waco boat tours and go up and down the Brazos River, and then get ready for the game against Sanford late on Saturday morning. And then during the week, it has fantastic food. They continue to renovate part of what they have inside the Baylor Club. It's a club where you can go out and at night maybe have a cocktail or some appetizers, or have dinner, lunch too, and have great meetings there, whether it's a banquet, a luncheon, or more. It is the Baylor Club with General Manager Nick Colwell inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I'm not sure who it is in the chat room because I was looking for him. I think it was like Office Fan, whatever. He keeps just accidentally on purpose putting up 69-3. He's obviously not an Oklahoma State fan. We discussed that quite a bit. It was just as bad as you could possibly, as you said, Craig, earlier. If you thought that was going to get bad and last week, whatever, it was worse than you could have imagined.
Yeah, we'll take a deeper dive into the whole league and whatnot. Fortunately, though, for Oklahoma State, that was about worst-case scenario. As I said a little bit earlier, it could have been worse. Technically, they could have scored more points on you. But it's just been a cascade of just injuries or just bad juju. And then you have just last week, even the lead up to this game that you're already probably kind of sort of worried about because it could be a 69-3 type of game. You got the whole Lanning back and forth. It just – I don't know. I just feel for Oklahoma State fans. They're in a rough spot right now, and I just wonder when they're going to get out of that rough spot, and I don't think anybody really knows, and it doesn't feel like it's going to be anytime soon. There's still 10 weeks left in the season, so we'll see what happens. But, yeah, the first couple weeks have been a real doozy, even though they got a win there in week 1.
We had to go to pivot a little bit when Hal Mumme was having some issues with his camera feed. So we went to the cell phone. Great job, Garrett and Brandon. Thank you for doing that. So let's now go back to the AP poll, which we discussed for a little bit. There was a shakeup. Some teams gone like Arizona State and Florida, and some teams moving in like Auburn and Missouri. Missouri with that win against KU we mentioned earlier in the show. All right, so Craig, you mentioned there's USF at 18, the Big 12 with Iowa State, Utah, and Texas Tech, and the SEC, as you said, with 11 strong among the 25.
Yeah, with the full breakdown, SEC gained a team. They go from 10 to 11, so they've got nearly half the poll at this point, and that's not even counting a team that's probably nipping at the heels like Mississippi State. If they win a couple more games, I'd imagine they'd be a team receiving a lot of votes. Right now, though, I think with Florida's loss, there's not really an obvious team that could jump right in to give them another one besides Mississippi State. And at this point, who else left even? I mean, Florida's obviously out of this thing for a while, but so they go from 10 to 11 SEC teams. Big 10 stays pat at 6. Big 12 loses one as Arizona State completely tumbles out of the top 25, although they are team 26 based on the votes, and BYU would be team 27. So both of those teams getting 94 and 92 votes respectively. They are the first two out. So that's something to be mindful of. But yeah, they go from 4 teams to 3. ACC goes from 4 to 3. The Indy and Notre Dame stays the only Indy. And then you now have a quote unquote group of 5 with South Florida now entering the picture when it was all just the power conferences and Notre Dame with representation last week. So that's kind of the overall conference shakeup. So SEC gains more ground, and USF representing all the I don't mean this disparaging either. I mean it like endearing, the have-nots, if you will. So good for the Bulls to be there, and not just in the top 20. They're at number 18. I mean, and look, their first 2 wins are as good as anybody's first 2 wins in the entire country. So they're deserving. But, yeah, they didn't just put them into that token 23, 22 kind of spot where like, oh, we better put a G5 team in the top 25. I was like, no, they're getting respect. So they're all the way up to number 18, and that's great for them. What a accomplishment.
Nobody in college football has 2 better wins. Do they? Nobody. No matter if you have a really, really good one, nobody has 2 better wins. And now Miami coming up next as number 5 in the country.
I mean, I'm sure we could play the game of had you won your week 1 or week 2 game, somebody could have done that. Like Baylor, had they beat Auburn, I think would have been able to say that maybe they would have had the best 2 weeks. But no, I think it's clearly USF at this point. So that's kind of the conference breakdown. But Arizona State, that was the one I was talking about whenever Hal Mumme was calling us. They tumbled all the way out after that loss. And my point was I was not as high on Arizona State coming into the season as some others were. I felt like this offseason, and this is probably what hurt and kind of created the stigma of the Big 12 preseason voting from a year ago when everybody's like, hi, Arizona State started 16 and they ended up at 1 and blah, blah, blah. And that was all very valid. But then this year, what happens? Everybody just puts the number 1 team right back at number 1, and they just basically go off last year's standings. And so I didn't view it that way. I felt like Arizona State was going to take at least a tiny step back. Now, they could still very well win the Big 12. But my point being is that I still think they're a really good football team, and they walked into an absolute hornet's nest filled with cowbells on Saturday night. That was probably the best atmosphere in the country. Now, if there was a better one, please just tell me and I'll go check that one out. And maybe I'm just blanking on who else I saw Saturday. Maybe had a better atmosphere, but Starkville was about as crunk as it gets. So they were dealing with that. And they also had a lead there at the end of the game and gave up the big pass play to Brennan Thompson to Texas guy, Texas boy. He had the big night with a couple of touchdowns, but that one, the huge one that gave them the lead. And that was how Arizona State lost. I mean, and to be down 17-0 and to work your way back and to take the lead and to be just a couple minutes away from winning that game until you gave up that big pass play. I don't know that deserves falling out of the entire top 25 is what I'm saying. Long story short.
On the road against an SEC team, and you give up a touchdown in the last 30 seconds.
But I understand that, there's a lot of 2-0 teams that you have to give credit to. But Alabama lost. They're still in the top 25. Michigan lost. They're still in the top 25. So I guess it's that you lost to Mississippi State. But I do think that maybe they're better than we expected. And it was also a unique atmosphere. Nevertheless, that certainly stood out. They win a couple weeks in a row. They'll be right back in the top 25. I think BYU's right there on the verge of joining the top 25 as well. So
they're 25, they're 26 and 27.
Right. That's what I said just a moment ago, was they are the first two teams that are out there. But Oregon, with the shellacking of Oak State, jumping up a couple spots. Georgia just not, I guess, impressing enough people, or it's the fact that there's teams behind them that were more impressive, like an Oregon, to hop over them. Let's
Georgia played with their foot a little bit.
Yeah, they're kind of boring right now. Yeah, they're kind of boring. They're there. They're really good. They're there, but they're not like wowing you with anything. Illinois remains a nice story. They're now inside the top 10 as they move up a couple of spots with their big win over the weekend, which turned out to be a game that wasn't close at all against Duke. I mean, kicked their ass.
It was kind of there, and I don't know if it was a second, but they just blew their doors off.
That was the game I knew the least about, just because of coverage areas and regionalities and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I know a little bit about both of them. I ultimately defaulted to Luke Altmaier in Illinois, but I did not expect it to be a near 30-point blowout when all was said and done. So kudos to the Illini for taking care of their business. FSU keeps moving up. I mean, so it felt like the voters were kind of like patient with them, but now they go and they win again, and so there's no stopping the tide of Florida State. It's now in the top 10. So you go from unranked and nobody really believing in you or caring too much about you to you win that first game against Alabama. And now if you just keep winning, it looks like you're going to be in the top 5 in no time. And maybe East Texas A&M 77-3. So I don't know, what all you took away from that, but there's a team in your conference that's slipping. Clemson does not look good. Damn near lost again on Saturday. Had to have a little bit of heroics and a comeback to win that game. Bryant Wesco Jr. had a couple big touchdown catches, another Texas guy. But Clemson's certainly on shaky ground, and that looked like doomsday scenario for them on Saturday. So I can see where the voters dropped them down in their minds a little bit. Now they got a big one against Georgia Tech in Atlanta coming up. So that's a really, really interesting game coming up this weekend. So Clemson may not be done dropping.
There's something missing there, isn't there?
And then Haynes King, they basically just sat him out last week because they were playing a layup. But Oklahoma 5 spots up with the big win over Michigan. Tennessee 7 spots up. Iowa State moves up a couple. So I don't know where you want to go, but a lot of teams moving up.
I want to ask you a question. We mentioned USF has the best resume through 2 weeks. They were unranked. Florida State, great win against Alabama, who then won last week. If, in fact, this is not to criticize the poll because I don't have a vote and I'm not so sure I wouldn't just have mushhead thinking about it. If, in fact, Florida State and USF traded the logos, where would Florida State be and where would USF be?
USF would probably be about 18 or below, and Florida State would probably be maybe a couple spots higher than they are now.
No. I maybe misunderstood. This is just one of those random thoughts. If Florida State's logo was on USF's football team, and Florida State was USF with their logo, how much of a difference in where FSU is now compared to where USF is now? Maybe split the difference in Florida State, or USF would be 13 and maybe the Bulls would be at 15 or so.
No, I think it's exactly what I said. I think that if Florida State, they're top 10 right now. I think if they had a slightly better schedule where they beat USF they beat who am I thinking of now? Alabama, and now you got me confused.
No, okay. Because I can come up with some strange stuff. If USF was Florida State with the same wins they have,
Right.
And Florida State was USF with the same wins they have, beating East Texas A&M, but also having the win against Alabama. Would they be ranked differently than they are now at 10 and 18?
No, I think they'd be pretty much exactly where they are.
Okay, maybe I'm just looking at it wrong.
I mean, how much higher would you put Florida State? They're already top 10. So if
what I'm saying is if Florida State went from nowhere and nobody thought they were any good, they beat Alabama, and then they beat East Texas A&M with all due respect, and they move, they're number 10. They earned that with who they are. But USF beat 25th ranked Boise State and went on the road and beat Florida, who was up inside the top 20 last week, and yet they're 18.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at it from the standpoint of if you put Florida State's logo on USF, right, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
They'd be about right where they are. That's what I'm saying. I think they're inside the top 10. I don't think they're jumping over Oregon and Ohio State and all those teams. I think they'd be maybe a couple spots higher. So that's why I'm confused, is because I think I answered it correctly the first time, is I think Florida State would be slightly higher, but they're already top 10. So the resume would be a bit more impressive. And I think that USF, if you gave them a win over Alabama and a blowout win over East Texas A&M, they'd be probably a couple spots lower than where they are.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I got it the first time, actually.
I think USF is too low based on who they've beaten. As an unranked team, they're 18. Florida State, unranked team, they have one really nice win, and they're 10. There's an 8 difference. There's 8 difference between 10 and 18. I think Iowa State should be higher. I know, again, it was a last-second field goal. They went on the road. They, at home, beat Iowa, their arch rival. They've now beaten 2 of their biggest rivals in Kansas State and Dublin, Ireland, and also Iowa at home. I think they're better than 14. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, man, I think if Florida State had top 25 wins, I mean, they'd be above Illinois. They'd probably be above, they'd definitely be above Notre Dame. But they're not getting that benefit of the doubt just yet, probably because they started outside. But, again, they're number 10 in the country, and I'm not putting them right now above Ohio State or Penn State or LSU or Oregon, or maybe you want to have a debate on Miami, Georgia, you want to have a debate there, Texas, Notre Dame. Like, certainly, I mean, Notre Dame is just sitting there with a massive game sitting in front of them, but they are 0-1, and they're right there inside the top 10. So, yeah, you could have Florida State above them potentially, but I don't think it changes their rankings drastically, because you take South Florida and give them 2 top 25 wins that only has them inside the top 20, and now you're giving them 1 top 25 win. So I don't know how they would be.
There's people in the chat that think both of us are not getting each other. Let's just drop it. Let's just drop it. Garrett, did you understand what I was trying to say at all, but by any means, or is it complicated? For example, if USF had the Florida State logo and had the 2 wins that they have against top 25 teams, how much higher would they be ranked than 18 than they are now if they were Florida State's program with those 2 wins? My point is they would be higher, and Florida State at 10. If they had the USF logo, the Bulls logo would be lower, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I think I've got that. I think that if you did that, then it's not all that.
It was just it didn't work. I thought they would like morph into each other at like 12 and 14 or something like that.
I mean, I think if Florida State had 2 top 25 wins, they'd be inside the top 10 like they already are.
Which is what I'm saying. USF is 18, and maybe they should be 10.
Maybe so. Yeah. I think we're, let's just move on, I guess.
Garrett, you guys have the banger games because of the top 25? What?
Oh, I feel stupid.
No, you don't know. Yeah. I must not be very good at teaching what I was trying to teach. All right. Bangers. Georgia and Tennessee. A&M plays in South Bend, a team that came to Aggies, the Kyle Field last year. A hell of a game. Notre Dame won by a couple of scores. And there is USF after winning against Boise State, winning against Florida. And now, hey, congratulations. You get to go on the road. And you know what? Alex Golesh and the Bulls don't give two you-know-whats. They look forward to this game. Not sure that's something they can handle back to back to back, but that should be one hell of a game.
Not quite the top 25 versus top 25 ranking type games we had in week 1, although week 2 actually had more entertaining moments at times. And I think this one's shaping up to be quite interesting. There's a lot of people that subscribe to the belief that, sometimes you don't have to have the most obvious matchups to have the best games. And so this is a weekend where it might be wilder than ever. It's the weekends, I guess I should say, that you feel like there aren't a ton of great games that actually turn out to be some of the better weekends. It's got, 3 at the top that look good, but really it's about those other notables really filling this out, where you're starting to get some teams in conference play that spices things up this weekend. So we got a little mixture of the non-con rivalry games, and we've got a mix of now the beginning of conference play. So that's a fun little bit to have. So yeah, this is a nice looking weekend. Just again, maybe not as many mega crossover matchups, except for Texas A&M, Notre Dame, USF, Miami. I don't know that we were circling that one thinking that was going to be some big game we'd be talking about, but here we are. So that's great. And then Wisconsin, Alabama. I mean, so much for Alabama's dead, right? They go out and have probably the most precise or precision driven, flawless type of performance they could have off of the hand wringing from last week. And Wisconsin, I think is going to be running into a little bit of a buzzsaw, but that's still an interesting game. Pitt and West Virginia has got a lot of history behind it, a lot of vitriol behind it. You just wish West Virginia was coming in with a little more oomph than they are with that loss last week. But it's a rivalry game with two teams that hate each other. So the one way that Rich Rod can really reverse his fortunes and get people off his back is to go and beat Pitt, and then they'll forget this last weekend pretty quickly for at least for the foreseeable future. So that's a big opportunity for the Mountaineers there. But yeah, Georgia, Tennessee, really looking forward to seeing Georgia tested, and Tennessee as well. A&M, Notre Dame, that's a game I've been looking forward to all off season, and all 3 of these first weekends. And now we're finally into game week, but I was eyeing that one, had that circled as a game I'm very much looking forward to. That ought to be awesome. And yeah, USF, Miami. I'm not going to doubt the Bulls at this point. I think you should clearly favor Miami just based on what we do know, but I don't think it's just some foregone conclusion, and I think anybody would be silly to think so based on these first couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some conference action, but I do like the bangers and the non-con, so I'm glad we got a little bit of both this weekend.
Georgia is a 6-point favorite last I looked. Notre Dame's a 6.5-point pick against A&M, and Miami is a 16-point favorite against USF. That game down in Miami. Other games like Bama's a 21-point pick against Wisconsin. I am very intrigued. Vanderbilt at South Carolina. Vanderbilt continues to play well early on. Pavia putting up big numbers against the Gamecocks with that team that looks so good as they ended last year, and they started off looking very good with the win against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think South Carolina is a wait and see for me. I mean, they've handled their business. I don't think Virginia Tech's a very good program at this stage. I don't know how they turn that around in the future, but I feel like something's kind of got to give there. It's just not Virginia Tech, but it's still a nice team to beat and a name to beat in a crossover power conference matchup. So that was an important victory for South Carolina. They've been good. I don't think they've blown you away, especially based on the preseason talk. You're kind of waiting for Lenore Sellers to already be leading the Heisman Trophy voting, and he's just kind of been there and sort of in the oh yeah, Lenore Sellers after you talk about John Matier, or even a Sawyer Robertson, or whoever else. So yeah, that's a nice little SEC game with 2 very intriguing quarterbacks. 2 programs that I think are kind of fighting for some of the same territory in the standings as far as not being default top teams that you list, but right there in that middle of where it could get interesting and sort of sort itself out. This is a game that'll help do that. So yeah, I think that's a super intriguing game. Pitt, West Virginia, regardless of records and background, will always be an interesting game that you at least have to see, how that one's going. And then I'm not as high on Wisconsin, Alabama, although Wisconsin had a nice win this past weekend. Clemson, Georgia Tech, with the way Clemson is playing lately, super interesting.
I will not be surprised. If whoever wins this game won't surprise me, but if it's Georgia Tech, that would not be I would not be surprised by that.
No, absolutely not. No, I think they might be the favorite by the time the weekend rolls around based on the way Clemson's played. So, no, that wouldn't be shocking at all if they were to win that game. But, yeah, Arkansas and Ole Miss, I'm really intrigued by that as well because of, yes, it's an SEC game, and that's fun and important, and those matter a great deal. But Arkansas, a team that doesn't want to be in the bottom, and Ole Miss, a team that very much feels like they belong in the top standings. And so, can they kind of shake that up a little bit with Arkansas pulling a major upset? Based on these first couple weekends, Taylor Green should be in the Heisman discussion with the monstrous games he's had. He had a couple picks this past game, but it more than made up for it on the ground and through the air. Had a massive, massive game, 150 yards rushing, bunch of touchdowns, had a big week one as well. Now, that competition is not the competition he's going to play against Ole Miss. So I'm really interested in how well he performs against a much bigger step up in competition, and Ole Miss will have their hands full because Arkansas's had a pretty hot hand these first couple weeks. But again, it's a major step up in competition. So I'm intrigued by Taylor Green in particular, and also Austin Simmons, who looks like he's going to take some time to settle in, but definitely has the tools, and you see why everybody's raved about him. So I'm all for the upset potential in this weekend's games, but also just the kind of the conference jostling that's going to start to go on as well.
All right, so here are the college football picks that Paul and Craig and I do every week. There's just 5 games, and I had a sparkling start at 0-5. Craig won the first week. He still leads after the second week. I went 5-0. Paul went 4. I thought he went 3-2, I guess. Because he picked KU because Amanda would have like that wouldn't have been good. And he picked Duke. So I bounced back with a 5-0 week. Craig's still right there with a 2-game lead. That's where we are after our 5 games. From 2 weeks into the season, we'll do 5 more on Wednesday.
Yeah, Oklahoma was a pretty easy pick. Not like in the game. I didn't think too much about that one with them being at home and the advantage at quarterback I felt they had due to Matier's experience. You knew they were going to have a really good defense. So Matier's playing a really good defense. Underwood's playing a really good defense. Matier's at home, way more experienced. That's where my head was with that, and that paid off. Mizzou, that was looking dicey. I mean, KU had that game not in control, but they had the reins. They had the steering wheel of that game. And credit to Bo Perbula, credit to some mistakes also that were not in Missouri's hands, like a drop pass there late in the game that was very, very costly to Kansas. That game, though, was there for the taking. I thought I was going to get that one wrong, especially the way it started off. But kudos to Missouri. Perbula's a really good quarterback. We're going to be hearing a lot about him. They're a fun team. Iowa State, that just felt kind of like an obvious pick, even though it ended up dicey like Cyhawk always does. Illinois, that was the one I was just the most, I guess the least short of. I felt like that one's the one that might get away, but Illinois made me look like a genius because they didn't leave any doubt in that one.
Yeah.
And then Baylor, I just said it last week, but I had a hunch after the Auburn game of as down in the dumps as people were about Baylor, I still felt like the offense played pretty well passing wise. Running game was a different story, but then turning around and playing SMU, even though it was on the road, I just felt like you've beaten this program 13 times in a row. I know it's a different SMU than when you played them all those other times, but you kind of had their number. There's no intimidation factor there. I don't think you roll into Dallas and you're like, oh my God, this crowd. And I don't think that was going to really affect you. I just felt like if they played a strong game, they would go and win. And early on, it looked like it was going to be a disaster. Early on, it looked like we were going to start calling for Dave Aranda's coaching job. I mean, the way that game started off, but fortunately they were able to rally and get a big win. And it was a big win for them. We'll see how big it is in the big picture, as the weeks go by, but that saved a lot of angst around Dave Aranda and his program for at least another week. And so a really nice win, really tough loss though for Rhett Lashley and company, because talk about feeling like you had that sewn up and then less than 10 minutes to go, up by 2 scores, and you give it up and then end up losing a double overtime, missed field goal, like just it all unraveled for SMU. So that was a tough pill to swallow for them.
I got to tell you, think about early on when you're on the road or not, you had the touchdown catch that was an absolute should have been an interception. The ball pops off the hands. That's why you're playing defensive back and not wide receiver. That was an awful way to start. Then you had the punt return when Josh Cameron got hammered, but the official feeling as if he was blocked into Josh. And, it depends on which side of the fence you're on, and they were able to overcome that. But then they fight back. But when it was 38-24, 8 minutes left, I thought it was pretty much something weird is going to have to happen. They got the ball back after they scored. And then I thought when it got into overtime, I didn't think there was any question that Baylor would win the game.
Yeah, I felt pretty confident, obviously going in, but felt confident once it got to overtime just because that game could have easily gotten away from them. And yeah, the writing was on the wall with like 8 minutes left. SMU's a good football team. I think Rhett Lashley's a heck of a football coach, but that was a really, really nice response by Aranda and crew, and a big win for the league, especially when you look at the overall results this weekend. And that game, along with Cy-Hawk, really set a nice positive tone for the Big 12 that unfortunately fizzled out as the day went along. But I think there were, a couple big wins in that AM, early PM slate, and that SMU one was one that was looking really, really dicey. So for Baylor to go and kind of pull that win from the jaws of defeat was much needed for them, much needed for the league. And it was just one of the better games of the entire season so far. I mean, entires 2 weeks at this point, 3 counting Ireland. But that was one of the better games we saw this weekend and overall through these first 3 weeks.
So I got a question for you. The big noon kickoff, obviously they've already locked in what they're going to be at this weekend. But Texas Tech and Utah, did I see where they're going to play at 12 or 11 a.m., 12 Eastern time? With that game, not this weekend, but next. It's a Saturday, 12 o'clock Eastern game on Fox. Could that be a big noon kickoff setup for Texas Tech and Utah? That's a possibility after they just did Iowa State and Iowa.
I don't know who's Ohio State or Michigan playing in week 4. That'll determine where they are probably. And I'm not trying to be flippant, but I mean, that's more Big Ten geared when they have the opportunity. But I would think Tech and Utah would be about as good of a matchup as you could get out of the Big 12 at this point. I mean, especially with Arizona State losing, that takes some of the luster off them. They're going to have to work back some of that attention, whereas Tech's had it all off season, kind of quiet these first couple weeks because they haven't played anybody. I mean, they've rolled though, and that's the thing is they could be winning 14-7 or 28-10, and you'd be like, okay, well they handled their business, but like they're just crushing teams. So now you run into a team that doesn't get crushed by anybody ever, hardly. At all in Kyle Whittingham's entire tenure. So that one's shaping up to be, I mean, obviously they both got to handle their business this weekend. Tech's got Oregon State, which Oregon State can be a little bit feisty, but I don't think they're going to be a match for Tech, just talent top to bottom and all of that. But who knows? I'm not going to look past the Beavers, but if they handle their business, then Utah's got to go on the road to Wyoming, which is not quite what it used to be just a few years ago. Tech lost at Wyoming just a few years ago. It's not that same Wyoming.
Just a couple of years ago,
Yeah, but it's not that same Wyoming, so you're not really as much on upset alert. But, yeah, so long as those two handle their wins this weekend or handle their games this weekend, I think that would be a great atmosphere for college game day or for big noon kickoff. I have not looked at that rest of the schedule for week 4.
Yeah, by the way, Arizona State will be in Waco. There's a 6:30 kick on Fox Sports on that same Saturday. Here are the games that could be in the way, if in fact, but there's really not. Illinois at Indiana. They have not listed the time there. South Carolina
they'll go to
and Missouri.
That one, they'll go to that. I think that Fox would probably default to that one because it's a Big Ten matchup.
South Carolina at Miami.
No.
Not sure they'll do that because it's not going to be on Fox. And then after that, you've got a couple of games, but the Texas Tech and Utah, right now, 2 teams ranked 20 and 21 seems to be because of all the times of the rest of the games of that specific weekend.
I would definitely take that over Indiana and Illinois, but it is Big Ten Fox, so we'll see. All 4 of those teams are top 25. Let's see after this weekend. I mean, like I said, there's another weekend to play, but yeah, I would think that Utah and Texas Tech should be a pretty safe bet for somebody who wants to have a party and have a big game atmosphere, because if they're both 3-0 as they should be, then that's a Big 12 championship preview potentially, and it's certainly a game where somebody's getting their first loss, and it's going to be a notable loss. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that one. Wish it was this weekend, actually, but we're going to have to be a little bit more patient.
Yeah, Indiana has Indiana State this week. I'm not sure about where Illinois might be as far as their schedule. When we come back, we're going to hear from Colby Daniels. He covers Oklahoma after their win at home against Michigan. John Matoir getting a tremendous amount of attention. And again, the Heisman, who's along the top of that odds list, it kind of moves a little bit, and Matoir was able to show off a little bit. It wasn't perfect by any means. Michigan still, with that young quarterback, I like what I see in Bryce Underwood, but they have not been good the last couple of years offensively, and Oklahoma with the win. So we'll come back and discuss Colby Daniels, what's going on in Norman, Oklahoma City, and more. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Ted Teague, David Gray. Ted, the CEO and general manager. David Gray handles the sales department and does a great job with that. September sales continue, including a Ram 1500 Jeep, Jeep Grand Cherokee, or Dodge Hornet, low financing, big cash back, limited time dealer discounts. That is available right now. How about this? The savings are massive right now. Heavy duty blowout, $11,000 off. The 2025 Ram 2500 Limited, right now $10,500 off. The 2025 Ram 35 for towing, hauling, and just doing what you want with it. It's a powerful, powerful truck. And $15,000 off powerful 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie, or you can lock in 1.9% financing for 72 months. All of that. Trucks are looking inside like an SUV, but powerful like you want them. And, of course, don't forget Jeep with the Wagoneer, Grand Cherokee, and more. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560, or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC. An equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Hey, by the way, you're darn right I'm going to bring this up. I just showed the list with Craig, Paul, and my picks and how it worked out. Troy Urbanky, who won the first Pick'em contest, tied me in this week, from this past Saturday or throughout the weekend. Both of us were 7-3, but my strength of victories, the tiebreaker, I win the $100 Visa card. Now, my question is, and I don't care about the answer, are we allowed to win our own competition? I'm okay if it's no. You guys let me know. Send me a tweet. Say something in the chat room. But I had a pretty good week. 5-0, and those were 5 of the 10 games that we put up. Now, I also want to tell you that Paul was out since Wednesday of last week. So the link, if you tried to register for that, it wasn't working. And I apologize to you for that. We'll have to try to get that fixed. He gets back from vacation and we'll be here on Wednesday. So we'll try to get that turned around. The $100 Visa card is brought to you by North Star Funding Partners and our good friend Kim Coulter, who had a super chat earlier. He's on his way to go get his MRI done on a back that's been buckled up for him now for the last couple of 2 or 3 weeks. Got him? Got him. Okay. Craig will do a crossover segment on all the various conferences and who did what. We'll have that for tomorrow. Don't forget Wednesday, the Mojo rankings that he has for the Big 12. And then at 5:30, following Phil Bennett, we'll kind of look back again on who we haven't discussed or talked about and summarize the weekend at 5:30. Colby Daniels joins us, TV in the Oklahoma City area, joins us on 365 Sports. Colby, thank you very much for your time. So obviously OU's been kind of in this blur or fog or whatever. Not sure exactly what moves forward, but how much was that a feel-good win for them to at least get that one notched in their belt?
Well, first of all, blur might be the nice way to put it, ultimately, in Brent Venables' first 3 years. I mean, they had 2 losing seasons in the last 3 years. Those are the only 2 losing seasons this century. So this is a massive year for Brent Venables, and I think it was a statement win on Saturday night. I don't look at Oklahoma and think they played their best game by any stretch of the imagination, but to physically dominate a Michigan team that is really good in the trenches on both sides of the football, to feel like you have a superstar in the making at the quarterback position that doesn't seem to get rattled, that you feel like is decisive with the football and just an absolute game changer in terms of his playmaking ability. And then the defense, I think, takes another step up this year. A lot of young guys were on that really good group a year ago that have really developed. I think Oklahoma is in position to maybe surprise some people. This is one of the most difficult schedules in all of college football. I said before the season, they could be drastically better as a football team, and the record might not show it. We'll see on the back half of the schedule, but I thought a statement win on both sides of the football on Saturday night against Michigan.
Colby, did you get to make it to the game on Saturday?
I was stuck in the studio doing pre- and post-game coverage, so I was not in attendance.
Yeah, I was just curious because it just seemed like a hell of an atmosphere, man. So I'm sure you've heard all about it, unfortunately, from others, but it just seemed pretty cool. So I kind of referred to John Matoir as an electric factory. I watched a bunch of him at Wazoo, and I'm an OU fan, actually, so I was kind of tempering my expectations, just not really knowing what to expect team-wise. But I felt like that was the full experience on Saturday night. Like even the bad of bad throw here and there, but just what's kind of been the reaction throughout the state of Oklahoma these first couple of weeks and just the refreshing air that he's brought to that offense there in Norman.
I think fans overall would have accepted about anything offensively versus what they had a year ago. I mean, it was not only one of the worst offenses in college football last year, but you can make the argument it was the worst offense in Oklahoma football history. And this is an offense over the last 25 years that has produced 4 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. A couple others have gone to New York City. So they're not used to seeing that level of offense here in Oklahoma. But you bring in Ben Arbuckle, who is the hot offensive coordinator named this offseason. And I think the fact that if you brought him in alone, it's going to be better, right? If you bring in John Matoir alone at the quarterback position, it's going to be better. The fact that you bring them in as a package and John Matoir doesn't have to learn a new offense. Those guys are already in sync. You can tell with his decision-making process that he's in an offense he feels comfortable with. So many times a year ago, you saw either Michael Hawkins or Jackson Arnold take snaps, and they didn't know what they were looking at on the other side of the ball. They didn't have trust in the offense, and there was a lot of hesitations. I know the offensive line wasn't very good, but the quarterbacks, I think, lack of confidence and decision-making a year ago also resulted, I think, in pressures and hurries and sacks, and limited what the offensive capabilities were. John Matoir is decisive. And look, he might make the wrong read occasionally. He might air one out and it ultimately gets picked off. But he's not doubting what he sees down the football field. He pulls the trigger when he's ready, and he bounces back. I don't think that anything really phases him in terms of getting down on himself. Similar to Baker Mayfield, and I know everybody's made the comparison, he has a lot of swag, almost bordering on the line of arrogance. I kind of like that in a quarterback. I think it rubs off on the rest of the team, and he's going to be the ultimate, we got this no matter what odds they're facing.
There was one throw that he made inside the 5, his own 5, when Matoir is standing 2 or 3 yards in the end zone, throws the deep ball down the right sideline. That's perfect, great tap of the feet. And he took a shot. Some guys would have probably left that thing hanging or maybe would have panicked. That, to me, was the throw. And I saw like Dan Casey, Todd McShay, some guys that kind of break things down like that, specifically discuss that throw.
Yeah, I mean, that was big league. There were multiple, I think, NFL-type throws that he made on Saturday night. There were multiple throws that he made after shaking a tackler in the backfield and then regaining his composure, keeping his eyes down the field and delivering a strike. The one aspect, I think, of his game that is really valuable is the running game. He's a great passer, but he had 19 carries on Saturday night against that physical Michigan defensive front. And while I think Oklahoma is going to be good on the offensive line, it was certainly a better performance in week 2 than week 1. There were 4 new offensive starters on the line in week 2 versus what we saw in the opener. There's a lot of young guys, and there are going to be matchups, I think, where he's going to face pressure. I don't know that you want him carrying the ball 19 times every week to make up for the lack of production in the traditional run game with your running backs, but his legs are going to be an X factor for this Sooner team if they're ultimately going to achieve at the highest level.
Yeah, where's your level of concern on the running back situation? I mean, Jaden, not the big, high-profile pickup, and obviously dealt with injuries and whatnot. But do you feel like this is something that kicks in, or is it going to kind of be, hey, Matoir's arms and his legs, and that's how they're going to win football games this year?
I think Matoir is going to be the way they win football games, but you're going to have a running game of some sort outside of just your quarterback. The Jaden Ott thing is a little bit weird. I mean, he came into the season. This was one of the top running backs in all of college football a year ago, struggled with injuries throughout the year, didn't have a productive year. He's here in this offense, and week 1, he was 3rd on the depth chart, and a lot of the conversation was they're saving him for Michigan. They didn't want to risk him, getting dinged or something like that and not be available for your big week 2 matchup. I don't even remember how many carries he had early in the Michigan game, but it wasn't many, and you really didn't see him again the rest of the night. I mean, it was the true freshman Tory Blaylock and Javonte Barnes in the backfield. Again, I will say the offensive line, 4 new starters in week 2 versus the 5 they sent out there in week 1. So that group is going to get better. And I think under Bill Bedenbaugh, it's been a thing where, the first few weeks he does a lot of tinkering before he really settles on a group of 5 and they really start to take shape and become what everybody hopes they're going to become. But I think it is a concern that Jaden Ott hasn't really done a whole lot, and maybe he's still dealing with some injuries that we're not aware of. I do think Tory Blaylock, the true freshman, son of former Kansas City Chief running back Derek Blaylock, runs the ball hard. And I think if given the opportunity and given the offensive line play, he could be a big X factor. But yeah, there's definitely concern. If you were going to pick out any one point of the offense or defense to be most concerned about going forward, it's definitely the traditional run game with the running backs.
Deion Burks is a seasoned veteran, Purdue for 3 years and now Oklahoma for his 2nd year. But otherwise, and I don't know the star rankings, but it does seem like they're doing this without any highly rated alpha wide receivers coming out of high school. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, they went that route for a couple of seasons, and a lot of those guys have either moved on or sustained injuries, or it just hasn't worked out for one reason or another. The top 6 receivers from last year's team, one of them is probably never going to play again. He's had several knee injuries, and I don't know if he's ever going to be the same. You got Nick Anderson, who went to LSU, Brennan Thompson's at Mississippi State, Jalil Farouk's at Maryland, Andrell Anthony's at Duke. I think there's somebody else I'm forgetting, but all those guys moved on, and they had to raid the transfer portal, and they brought in a bunch of small school guys. Isaiah Satania came in from Arkansas. Giovanni Gibson, who I heard a lot about in the fall, still hasn't played his first game, and there's an anticipation that he should be ready for Auburn in week 4. He was kind of the guy that was talked about as maybe being the number 1 pass option when the season started. So we haven't seen him yet, but if there's any X factor at that position outside of Deion Burks, who everybody expected was going to have a monster year this year, it would be Jaron Kanik, the converted linebacker to tight end. through 2 weeks, he has been exceptional. He has made big-time plays with his hands. He's an incredible athlete. He had a big-time block on one of John Mateer's rushing touchdowns. I don't know that anybody, when they saw the week 1 depth chart with Jaron Canick's name at tight end, thought that that was actually a serious thing. I think there was a common thought process that he was kind of being rewarded for being around the program and working hard and kind of being a tone setter in terms of the locker room and how hard he works in practice. And he's a legit playmaker for this team. And the tight end position is something that they have drastically needed improvement from for the last several seasons.
Colby, has anything stood out to you defensively other than their just dominance, obviously giving up 16 points in 2 weeks and just 13 to Michigan, who's not an offensive juggernaut by any means, but still impressive nonetheless. Outside of just that you expected them to be good, maybe what's popped off a thing or two about the defense you've seen through a couple of weeks?
I'll just say yes. Yes to the defense, right? I mean, there's not much to find if you're going to be critical. I know Michigan had the 75-yard touchdown to start the second half, and that kind of took the air out of the building for a minute after such a dominant first half performance. But I think on all 3 levels right now, the coaching staff is beyond thrilled with what they have. And I think a year ago they were really good, but the offense and their failures to even pick up first downs and put the defense back on the field so often ultimately just resulted in that defense getting worn down and maybe not having the teeth that they had early in the season or that they would have had if they had a competent offense. This year, a lot of those guys are a year older. I think they're better. They have more depth, I think, in all 3 levels of the defense than they had a year ago. And now you're starting to get some young guys like Owen Heineke, who was a monster all night Saturday night at linebacker, making plays behind Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie, who are your starters. The freshman corner, Cortland Guillory, has been a really nice surprise. And he was one of the names that I think Brent Venables mentioned in every media availability he had leading up to the season. He started since day 1, 2 times out. He's done nothing but excel. Seems to be physical in the run game, looks good in coverage. There are players on this team that would be starting in a lot of other places right now that are just trying to find ways to get on the football field. Another name I would just throw out, Kendall Daniels, the transfer from Oklahoma State. Played 3 years there. He's a physical freak. Like, he's one of those first off the bus type of guys. At Oklahoma State, he had flashes of brilliance where you think this guy should be playing at the next level eventually. And I think last year he kind of got a bad name. The OSU defense was probably the worst in the country. And I think people called him lazy and just had a lot of comments about the way that he played. And, you know, some of that I think is just maybe fatigue with how bad that defense was. But he is no question rejuvenated and excited to be a part of this OU team. The way that they can use him at linebacker and then in coverage, playing safety is, I think, a big-time weapon. But the bread and butter of this team is the defensive line, both inside and on the edge. They are 8, 9, 10 deep potentially with guys that you feel like can play against anybody. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference with the Oklahoma defense overall.
Yeah, big win, nice win. It's one of those where they still have so much in front of them. They can't get ahead of themselves with the schedule they have. Obviously, Texas not far off, Auburn right around the corner.
Have you looked, Colby, at that second half of the schedule and just what that looks
brutal.
like right now?
Yeah,
with
it's
like
brutal.
8 consecutive ranked games. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, so they're at Temple this weekend, which should be a blowout win. Then they have Auburn at home, the return of Jackson Arnold to Norman. That should, at least from a storyline standpoint, be a fun matchup. You get by that one, and it's Kent State, and then 7 straight games against ranked opponents at the moment. An absolute gauntlet. And that's why I said at the beginning of this, Oklahoma could be drastically better than they were a year ago. And maybe the record doesn't show it, right? I mean, maybe they're 1 win better on the record. But you also look at the SEC teams, and I think there are some winnable games that maybe weren't winnable last year, or games that we wouldn't have expected OU to have any chance in. So, you know, I said at the beginning of the season, I think 6-6 is in play. I think 10-2 is in play. There's nobody necessarily on the schedule that I just absolutely say write an L next to that matchup. So I guess that's the one difference from last year, is there were multiple games where you just automatically penciled in some losses, and one of those was Alabama that ended up going OU's way. But yeah, it's a tough schedule, and you worry about the cumulative effect, I think, of that back half of the season and maybe what playing that level of competition week after week after week might do to you.
Last thing, Colby, just a quick note. Behind you, this picture of Southern Hills, which we know has hosted major championships. Have you had a chance to play it?
I have not played it, nor would I want to. I think that I might give up the game of golf if I ever attempted to swing a golf club on that golf course. And look, it is a chore to walk 18 holes on that thing without playing it. So I was there a couple years ago when the PGA was here and got to follow Tiger for 18 holes. And just like Tiger, I was limping up the 18th fairway by the time you take every step on that golf course. But it's exceptional. If you guys ever get the chance to get out there, you definitely should take advantage.
Thank you, Colby. Appreciate your time today. Have a great week. We appreciate you.
You guys as well. Congrats on the big win, by the way. I'm a big Sawyer Robertson fan, so that was a fun matchup Saturday.
A lot of people are right now, and, of course, a huge win against SMU. Thank you, Colby Daniels, on Oklahoma's win against Michigan. We'll have Phil Bennett, and then a couple of little notes about everybody in the Big 12 at 5:30.
Garrett, I know if you can had you watched much Matoir prior to this year? Had you watched much John Matoir prior to this year?
I hadn't, because I tend to fall asleep early.
Oh,
so
yeah.
most of the time I didn't get to see his games.
He was playing at like 1 a.m. So the reason why I was asking is because your response earlier when I walked in about like Oklahoma looked really good.
Yeah.
I'm finding it fun to see people seeing him for like the first time. And so I was wondering like kind of what your first real impressions are of just watching him kind of, because that was a John Matoir game. That's like what he does.
Honestly, it kind of reminded me of a mix of Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield. Like if you combine them, like you're going to get the brashness that like, I love that. Like if you do something, talk some smack, I'm all for that. Just the playmaking ability, the way he's so elusive in the pocket. I think he's a better passer than both of them, especially with the way he identifies the receivers downfield when he's under so much pressure. But man, it was like seeing the perfect Oklahoma quarterback. Like we went for so long seeing just Heisman guys, so many talented players. And then unfortunately, I don't think it was all on Jackson Arnold. I think there was a lot of the coaching and just everything that changes there. It didn't feel right. But now it's like Oklahoma has a guy who is the standard of Oklahoma quarterback, and it makes them a very dangerous team.
Yeah, he fits like a glove. The Spencer Rattler was not exactly what they thought he was going to be there for a while. Still ended up being in the NFL, though. We'll see how that all goes for Spencer Rattler. But, yeah, I was watching Matoir, and there were a couple times I'm like, that was Baker Mayfield right there. You know, that kind of just swagger about him. So, definitely a guy who's in that top player discussion through a couple weeks. Long way to go, though, and we'll see how many of those teams they play down the stretch that are ranked. But got to take care of their business against Temple first, and then that Auburn game with the Jackson Arnold return should be a lot of fun here. That a couple weeks from now, like this weekend's fine, but a couple weeks from now might be like super electric.
The list of bangers will be probably at least twice what it is for this week, and maybe more when we come back. Phil Bennett. He texted me during the college football weekend a few things that he noticed as he's watching games. He's next. This is 365 Sports. I mentioned Kim Coulter sent us a super chat. He said he had to leave. He's on his way to get an MRI. He's had some back issues. Like it seems like a lot of people inside the chat room, or those of you watching, whether you're watching on Twitter Live or YouTube. In fact, you've heard about my back issues and what I've dealt with and tried to get done, and I'm going through some treatment again today, in a couple of weeks. But he said, I wish I could get an MRI for $497. That's not what it's going to be where he's going in that Phoenix, Scottsdale area. And that's just a great deal. And it's not like, hey, buy one, get one free. It's not that. It's state-of-the-art imaging machine. Ideal MRI is going to find what is wrong, whether it's a muscle or it's a ligament, or it's something that like they see this like, what is that? Or if they think it's something and it's not there, that's even good. Then they can maybe diagnose it a little bit differently, whether it's your lower back, your shoulder, around your cervical, around your neck, or it's maybe in your knee, your quad, where it might be your elbow or more. Ideal MRI. Get your doctor to request an MRI, $497 or less every single time. And state-of-the-art imaging machine. It's worth it. It's worth it because you will get the result, your doctor gets the result, and then they can start to figure out, okay, what is the next thing we do with the game plan? At idealmri.com in the Central Texas Marketplace off of I-35 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help us finally hear semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, here we go. There he is, that gorgeous backyard in College Station, Texas. Phil Bennett. How many years? 40? How many years were you a college football coach?
44.
44 years. And our guy that we go to get some of the football knowledge in the film and watching the game, and he was texting me back and forth throughout the day on Saturday. Let's start with, and there's a lot of games. I want to get to a few other ones around the country, but let's start with, hey, I almost watching Iowa State, Iowa, Phil, is like watching grass grow. But it was almost like you watch that game and you're sore watching that game. That was a slobberknocker.
Smokey, every year it is a defensive clinic. They have guys. I was better on offense. Iowa State had some playmakers, but I'm telling you, having played in that game, being involved in it, that's a huge game. And I'm telling you, for a defensive coach, that's a fun game to watch. Phil Parker at Iowa and the Iowa State coordinator, Heathcock, both of them great coaches. And for me, it's a fun game to watch. But there's a lot of hitting going on.
How do you balance Iowa's you had some offenses that could score points for you. The challenge was they scored too fast, so you had to constantly be out on the field.
Yeah, right.
Iowa, it feels like the reverse problem with that, Phil. How would you describe that unique difference in that you almost need the defense to score points so that you can win a football game?
One of the things, if you noticed in that game, not a whole lot of turnovers. So the defense really. You would think the defense and the kicking game would create more opportunities than it did. It was everything was a grind. I know this. if you notice, they didn't have to expand the camera when they were in formations. Everything was bunched up, and people were getting their ass knocked off.
Hell of a game. You were texting me during one of the early games, which was 17th ranked SMU, jumped out to the big lead, had a crazy play early, had the punt return that was an explosive play, got a turnover. There's something that's not fitting on the Baylor defense, and is it talent or is it reading and being aggressive enough?
This is the second time that I watched Baylor with great interest. Obviously, against Auburn, I thought that schematically, I thought Auburn did a really good job with a power read. Of course, the quarterback rushed for 135, 37 yards. This was a little bit different. SMU, I thought Baylor struggled early getting their fits. You know, and when I say fits, the linebackers fitting off the defensive line. And I thought that SMU schematically and physically was getting after them a little bit. Now, obviously, the big catches were huge, but in that game, I think the thing that I took away from it, both teams really struggled fitting the football and playing the deep ball.
It seems like Baylor's going to have Sawyer Robertson throw them to a lot of wins this year offensively, which he seems he's more than capable of doing. But what a performance from him on Saturday. What did you make of just his kind of X factor, and ultimately what a win that ended up being, whereas you can kind of predict what we would be talking about if they were 0-2 and had just lost in Dallas and looked like they might get embarrassed for a second there on Saturday, but instead it's a huge win for them.
Craig, I thought it was a game, just like you're saying, that they kept their will, they kept their poise, then they kept digging, they kept fighting, they'd give up a play, they'd make a play. And when you have a guy like Sawyer, you're never out of it. You look last night with the Buffalo-Baltimore game. You have Josh Allen, you're never out of it. Now, you got to have some help there, and I thought it was as I told a friend of mine that coaches at SMU, I said, I know you don't want to hear this, but it was a great fan game. It was a great game to watch as a fan because you could sense it that Baylor was never out of it, even though they got behind a couple of times. I'm telling you, though, the play of the game was the safety, I think is number 38. His interception in the end zone flipped the whole game.
By the way, I'm glad you brought that up. I have a note here. Remember when in 21 Baylor lost running backs and David Wetzel suggested, hey, you need to check on Abram Smith. He played that position in high school, and he, of course, had a monster year. Wetzel is the one who also mentioned this kid about they need to give him a look. And look what happened. He made a big play for Baylor in that game and is getting a lot of time to play. Now,
let me tell you something. He plays very smart. He's very physical. He had a couple of open field tackles that were very impressive. I felt at that point in the game, Baylor couldn't afford for them to score. They just couldn't. And he made that play. He had great coverage. He reminded me of my boy from Plano, Mr. Brents. That's who he reminds me of. Plays smart, and he plays well.
He played at New Braunfels with the Unicorns. He's a redshirt sophomore, Jacob Running. I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah, David Wetzel knows football.
Yes, he does.
And I'm telling you, that's a good take. And he's a good guy. You watch him in the backfield back there. He manages things. I like that.
Coach, I remember asking you at the beginning of the year what you thought about Mississippi State and your friend Jeff Lebby, and you weren't super. Nobody was high on Mississippi State. I mean, I think they were kind of renowned as the kind of logical number 16 pick in the SEC, really. But what an atmosphere that was on Saturday night. Yeah. What a win that ended up being for them on Saturday night. Just take us through your kind of thought process watching that one and what the biggest win of Jeff Lebby's head coaching career so far, certainly, right?
You have to start with the quarterback from Baylor, Chapin. Really, they got started, and for some reason, Arizona State has struggled with tempo offenses. If you remember last year's, I think the bowl game, the playoff bowl game in Atlanta, Texas came back and won on a deep ball. They have trouble getting their calls, getting reset, and that's exactly what happened. They fought their way back in the game, and Jeff and them did a great job. Started off, stunned them, and then Arizona State worked their way back. And at the end of the game, I mean, you could tell the corner and the safety on that play, there was complete disarray. And that's what tempo did to them. And unfortunately, that's how their season ended last year. So a huge win for Jeff. I still think they got some issues of they did a great job on the goal line stand that kept Arizona State to kick a field goal. And I think they're doing some things better defensively. They've got to get better, and they know it. But it was a huge win.
No question about it. Was that blown coverage then on that touchdown?
No, and I say this again, it was almost a replica of last year's Peach Bowl with Texas.
It
looked like they're thinking that the offense has to wait on them because they were slow getting lined up. Obviously, they don't practice it or see it enough, and it was both the corner and the safety were flat-footed. If you see the corner and when the safety inverted, he didn't do anything. He stayed outside drifting. Yep. And when they ran the switch route, it was uncovered. I mean, it was a 58-yard gift. I mean, it was absolutely inexcusable in games like that.
I don't really have like a question here, but that goal line stand Mississippi State had made me think of two things. Arizona State, no matter what good running backs they had, really missed Cam Scattaboo in that role of just being like unstoppable on the goal line. So they didn't have him this time around. But also, is that like kind of the difference that even Mississippi State's not one of the higher recruiting rankings teams, but those SEC teams just have D linemen that are built for moments like that, no matter where you stand in the standings? Do you think that had anything to do with just the talent of an SEC defensive line coming into play?
Craig, I coached in that league, and I'm glad you sort of brought that up. I think there's talent. It's a great league, most talented league there is. But sometimes I think that's overblown about the offensive line, defensive line of a team. Dave Aranda said, "Hey, I had the dogs to do it at LSU." I told your dad the story. Nick Saban one time called me, wanted me to come down there. He goes, "Hey, I know all that stuff you're facing that we don't see over here is fixing to come here. So these schemes, we got to learn to play these schemes." I think they're a great league, but I also think schematically one team has advantage over the other. And I do believe this, Greg. I think that Mississippi State in that game was vastly improved on defense.
One of the things Aranda once said to me about the SEC is you just let them go. You let them run instinctively to whatever they could do athletically, that you had to do more scheme in the Big 12. Does that make sense?
No doubt. But you know what happens? I mean, that's why Nick and those guys did not want to play Art Browse. I mean, Art can run a play and rush for 200 yards in a game and maybe not block your best player the whole game. I mean, there's something. I mean, we were the most, between Randy Clements and Art, I mean, schematically, we could do things. I knew when I was at SMU, we used to play the dickens out of them. They could attack you in ways you've never dreamed. One of the things that I really thought Baylor did Saturday, really good, Jake did, the receivers were over-splitting and getting wide splits like we used to do, and SMU kept pressing them. And and Baylor was beating them on the slants that became crucial. So, yeah, I think coaching and schematics are a big part of the game. Now, like I told you, back in the day, SEC was some people call, but it was a power league, and that's what people when Dave was there, everybody there, you didn't have the no huddles and the things that we were seeing with West Virginia, Oklahoma State rolling at that time, OU with Baker, as y'all were talking about earlier. So it was just different things.
What do you think's going on at Oklahoma State right now, as far as just kind of where things stand? I mean, I know there's ebbs and flows to careers, and not every year's 10 wins plus and winning championships and all that, but it just feels like they've hit a low in the Gundy era. How would you advise Oklahoma State fans to proceed, and also just kind of what do you make of where that program seems to sit right now? 3 years ago, they're playing in back-to-back Big 12 title games. Last year was obviously a disaster, and this year started off that way. What do you think?
Craig, I think, first of all, and I think that Gundy will tell you, he didn't embrace the portal. It was, you can be stubborn, but you better evaluate where you're at. I think I thought they had a really good staff. I thought a lot of good coaches got let go. They hired a defensive coordinator that was at Florida, got run off when Mullins was there, had been in the NFL, has never been really great. I think he's a good coach. I'm not sure he's a coordinator, but he hadn't been great in the college game. And you switch everything except the head coach and the strength coach. I don't know their talent level. Obviously, to give up 69 points and only score 3, there's a big divide there. So I'm not qualified to actually – I don't know enough what's going on. I've always thought Mike Gundy did a very good job, but I'm not sure they're working with the same type of players that they're accustomed to there.
And Oregon and Dan Lanning are obviously very good, so I do need to give them credit as well. They look like they're one of the better teams in the country.
Absolutely. We all sit on here. We've all got an opinion. It's easy to be critical, but it was a game that none of us. I didn't expect that. I thought that Oklahoma State might defend them better than they did, but it's sort of they've been on a slide, and it might be continuing.
Phil, as a defensive mind, can you try to explain? OU's offense last year was a mess. They couldn't do much. Jackson Arnold's going to be playing against them in a couple of weeks with Auburn. But when you watch John Matoir, the quarterback who's like the magic man for them, what do you see, and how difficult is it to maybe try to at least contain him?
I was listening to, I believe it was Craig talking about the comparison with Baker. Very similar. I mean, very similar. And when I say that, I mean, the guy, it's just how he carries himself, his poise. You can see his expectability is high. His teammates respond to him when he makes the play. I mean, they ran the quarterback counter. I think it was 3rd and he actually, Michigan played it well, and hell, he drug them for 3 yards. And he just plays with that enthusiasm. I tell you, the thing that stuck out to me in that game, though, David, was OU's defense. I mean, that except for the long play that they ended up missing a fit and safety missed the tackle,
right?
They played fast. They played hard. They played assignment, and they were impressive. Now, as far as offensively, I played Arbuckle when he was at Western Kentucky. He's a young guy. He's got that system, and it's a good system. It's a tempo with a quarterback run. It combines things. I think that when he went there, he told Venables, he said, I'm going to run this thing. I'm going to do it my way, and this is the way, I know with Jeff, I know with the other coordinator, Seth, Venables was very involved in what they wanted to do. They weren't quite as good on defense. So I think he's probably relaxing, letting this guy run it. And I think this quarterback is a much better player than they've had. And it's obvious, too, they've gotten better receivers. Number 5 is really a player.
That cutback Michigan made, you're right. The safety was there. He took the wrong angle, right?
Yes,
and the guy's gone. Yeah.
It was I tell you, it was a fun game to watch. That was and Michigan, got back in the game, and Michigan's defense is good also. Wink's done a really good job with their defense.
Coach, shot in the dark. I mean, you know a lot of people. I know you don't necessarily know everybody. Did you ever have much contact or come across Alex Golesh at all?
I know Alex,
Okay.
Yeah,
I was wondering, they're off to an incredible start. Obviously got Miami coming up this weekend, so it actually could get better. But yeah, what was kind of the backstory there, and what do you think of him as a coach?
I think number one, I'm going to applaud their administration. They're building a new stadium. Are y'all aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on campus. Alex has done a great job along with the athletic director, who I think left recently, and to build that stadium. He's sold on what they're doing in Tampa. They've done a great job recruiting. He's got a really good staff, and they've evaluated really well. I watched them last year, and I thought to myself, I watched the first game against Boise. That was no joke. They beat Boise. During the game against Florida, I never thought they would, when Florida stopped them, or actually when they missed the field goal and they got the ball back, Florida couldn't get a first down. I said, this game's not over. Then, of course, they had the famous spitting incident that gave them 15 yards. Next play, they get 30, and game was over. So he's done a really good job.
You know, that kid that got hit with the unsportsmanlike penalty was on Baylor's roster up until he hit the portal and went to Florida, because I think Dave, the defensive coordinator who's now at Florida, who was at Baylor,
Ron Roberts,
not Dave, but Ron Roberts, but that Brendan Bett was on the Baylor roster and transferred to Florida.
Hey, what do you want me to say? You know my thoughts on that.
Yeah. What would you
Karma's a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you ever have, what was the worst thing a player under you as an assistant or head coach ever did that, just other than missing an assignment, that you just couldn't get over?
One time, and I'm not going to tell you where it was, I had a player chest bump the umpire. And I'm just telling you, you wouldn't have believed who it was in a million years. And the most uncharacteristic thing I've ever seen. And it cost us the game.
Just like this one did. Just like
this did.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, just like it did.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Phil Bennett with us on 365 Sports. One thing that I wanted to get to, you did say this to me about one more going back to Baylor, is that it seemed like, and this is not so much in your words, that they were unsound on their run fit. You brought that up a little bit earlier in the show. What do you mean by that?
Well, there were some runs that SMU was running. Everybody gets their run gained by numbers and angle. How many people you have in a box? How many were removed? SMU was getting good numbers to run the ball on, and they were matching up with Baylor's front. And Baylor, you saw quite a few 4 to 8 yard runs.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's where I applaud both safeties, 38 and the other safety. They did some really good one-on-one tackling. I will tell you this, though, David, I thought as the game went on, if Dave was calling it, he started giving some run stunts that I think really, I think I might have told you, might have answered some questions of what he needed to do. He started some stop calls that really put some pressure on SMU.
I saw the box score with Army's win against K-State, and K-State does seem to be a little bit out of sorts. 82 plays to 43, 70 rushing attempts to 18. Time of possession, 41 minutes. And Army, remember, they were just beaten a week before that. Yeah, by Tarleton State. That's just Kansas State looks like they're sick somehow. And what a team to have to play when you're not feeling really good about yourself.
I could not give you a worse scenario from the time they went to Ireland and lost a close game, barely won the game against North Dakota. And then I don't know if you saw, but the play of the game was a option pass. They ran the option, stalk, and go. And I mean, wide open. And I don't think Kansas State had 280 yards offense, something like that.
No,
and
was.
And it's just right now. There's a lot of frustration. They're defensively, they're not playing real good, and it's a lot of frustration both sides of the ball. And he's got his hands full to get that thing back on track.
I was not rooting against Kansas State, but I did feel like there was very much a ball don't lie moment when they didn't give they had the reversal of the call there at the end as far as that safety Madison. Yeah. I felt like that should have been Army ball, and it's pretty much game over, and K-State got a new life, and it just felt like that game ended the way it was supposed to based on the way that it had gone to that point. But that safety, Colin Madison, he had one hell of you talk about some just beautiful turnover forcing hits, and just, man, that kid was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was that was a big play. The thing you love about service academies, I mean, they play for the right reason, for what they do with school-wise, to be a part of college athletics. I mean, they're super impressive. And Monken has done an unbelievable job at Army. I mean, really, I mean, they're prepared every week. That was a huge win for them.
Phil, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Guys. Always great to see you. Have a great rest of your week.
All right. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Phil Bennett, long time, 44 years in the business, college football, with us on Mondays, and we do appreciate that with his time whenever we get it.
Yeah, he's pretty much been at every school that we talked about, so that's what's unique about his insight. He's been at Kansas State. He's been at Oklahoma. He's been at Baylor. He's been at SMU. He's been at Iowa State. He's been all over the place.
LSU.
And then coached with a lot of the guys like Jeff Lebby, who had the big win on Saturday night for Mississippi State. And, but that Colin Madison for Army, unbelievable game. Two of the prettiest turnover forcing hits. And then the big interception there at the end. I was just that was just very much a ball don't lie moment. I tweeted that out, and then I looked around. I think like 15,000 other people had the same exact thought, but we were all in the same brain space of Army deserved to win that game. K-State had a chance there at the end. Army shut the door on that. Officials said otherwise, and gives K-State the second chance or third chance at that point, and then he picks off the pass to seal it, and it was like perfect. He deserved to end the game. Mm-hmm. They deserved to win that game, and I take no joy in it from a Kansas State perspective, but I was thrilled for Army because that was a huge win, and they certainly had earned that. And for Kansas State, it's just more of whatever is going on, this just weird feeling that dates back to the beginning of the season and said after the Ireland game, the whole Johnson family debacle, that like something just feels kind of off, and it's not them necessarily, but just something doesn't feel right. Iowa State comes back, no hangover whatsoever. They go and just smack a really, really good FCS team, turn around, beat their arch rival in Iowa, like the perfect start. And Kansas State's been like the inverse. And quite frankly, they're very lucky to not be 0-3. Like they're very fortunate to not be 0-3. So, I don't know what the deal is, but I started thinking about it again on Saturday night of like, man, I'm seeing like, I guess it's like a John Kerr, some of the K-State sort of beat writer type guys or just commentators, and they're talking about how this like really goes back to the end of last year. And you remember Kleiman, like we're wondering, is he retiring?
He was out of sorts, and I think it was no one ever really. It was a health issue,
but then it was like, no, he's healthy, he's fine, and no, he's not retiring, and everything's fine. But it was still kind of weird the way that they addressed it, and it didn't like convince you that everything was a-okay. So if you're looking at it from not just this year, but also dating back to the end of last year, this is kind of like a real long stretch now where it's just what is going on? Like something's just not right, and I don't know what it is. And clearly they don't either, because otherwise we'd know what the answer is. But, it's just really strange. Injuries have played some role, like not having a Dylan Edwards certainly doesn't help. But
he's 50-50 for this week.
Yeah, clearly he wasn't faking in Ireland, folks, for anybody who had that comment in week number 0 about – him having the turnover and then deciding like he's going to be hurt now. Like clearly that wasn't a fake to try to cover up for the turnover. But yeah, I mean, that's lingering longer than you hoped it would. So yeah, they're all out of sorts. And last week I had them at like 15 in the Mojo rankings. And I was sitting there thinking that's probably like the two big bitches I think was like Colorado was too high, which actually
I think you had them at 9.
But they're right there this week, probably. Yeah. I mean, they actually had a pretty nice week, all things considered, and a really interesting story at quarterback now with their third stringer maybe being their first stringer above Caden Salter and Juju Lewis, which is
got to give Dion credit for not being against or not afraid to make that move.
Yeah, but I mean, like that was a really interesting story coming out. So we'll see what kind of happens there. But yeah, anyways, I felt like K-State down at the bottom of that's why I do the Mojo and not the power ranking, because I do think they're still probably a top half to right below the top half and up team. I don't think like on a pure football basis, they're the 15th worst team in the league out of 16.
Well,
but based on what we've seen and all things considered, no, they actually are. And it's just a matter of the weekend was so bad for the bottom half of or the bottom teams in the Big 12 of like, who had the worst weekend? Them, Oklahoma State, West Virginia?
No, Oklahoma State, even though I didn't expect him to be within a couple of touchdowns. That was humiliating.
No, it was. It was. But
Arizona State, obviously. West Virginia, you mentioned them.
Arizona State wasn't like a bad loss, though.
Kansas State, they were devastated when I picked them to win the conference. That was it. Think about this also. They were up 13-0 in that game and lost. Army had back-to-back drives that took 30 plays, 164 yards, and I think like 10 or 11 minutes off.
They got armied is basically what happened. K-State threw the ball 25 times. Avery Johnson was okay. He was okay. Had the touchdown and a turnover. 172 yards. They had no run game to speak of. They only ran it 18 times because they hardly had the freaking football. And then towards the end, they had to throw it a little bit. So 18 for 74 and no scores. I mean, that's not going to cut it. So you had 33 offensive plays.
Yep.
No. You had 40 offensive plays.
To
right?
80-something.
Let's see. What's 25 plus? It's 43. 43 versus 70 rushes for Army and their, I guess, 11, 12 pass attempts.
Yeah,
so
82 plays to like 40-something.
To
and
like
40
43.
minutes to 20 minutes in time of possession. All right, when we come back, we're going to glance over some of the other Big 12 games and what teams did or not. We'll also hear a note from Steve Sarkeesian, UT coach, when he was asked about Arch Manning and what's going on with what appears to be a kind of a grimacing when he's throwing the football, and Sark fights that back. Much more. Thank you for your time. We're not done. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
We will get into some more of the conference, Big 12, some teams that probably don't want us to bring them up, some that do. So we make sure that we don't, like 3 or 4 days into the week, we haven't mentioned a certain program. We want to do that. Here is Steve Sarkeesian earlier today at the Texas press conference when the reporter, you've seen the video maybe of Arch throwing the ball. Looks like he's kind of protecting his shoulder. Here's a reporter asking Sarkeesian about what's going on with Arch. Do we have it?
According to who? Arch said that to you? No. Oh, according to who?
It just looked like he
doesn't have any.
Is there an explanation to why it looked like that?
I don't know. I've never filmed any of you guys when you're using the bathroom, so I don't know what faces you make when you're doing that.
Sark, you talked about going home and watching.
You guys like that? I'm going to ask you. You get another question coming up.
All right, so the question was, is he pain? Is there some kind of pain? Sark shot that down. It does look like he's uncomfortable. It did look like in that Ohio State game that he wasn't like just free and easy. It looked like I heard a lot of people over the weekend, even Saban, say that it looks like the moment was a little bit too big. Not everyone put that into consideration, but he was able to play well enough, and they beat San Jose State. They move on. They'll win the next 2 or 3, and then they have Oklahoma around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a product partly of just the weird coverage, and weird's not probably the right word, but the extra coverage he gets versus anybody else. I never can recall seeing another guy like we watched him grimace while he threw the pass. Is his shoulder okay? I don't recall ever doing that with anybody else ever. Now, maybe it just wasn't super obvious in front of me. And also, it's just maybe what your mind is already thinking when you watch something, because there's a clip going around of Arch Manning and he's grimacing, which is probably what this guy's referring to. And he's grimacing, and it can look like, if you want it to look like that, or if you think it looks like that, it can look like a guy who's grimacing as he throws the ball because his shoulder's in pain.
Yep.
You know what it looked like to me? Looked like a bad throw that went into the dirt, and he's going,
yeah,
because it was a bad throw.
Yeah, a reaction to the fundamentals being off or something.
Yeah, it was more of like I looked at it completely opposite. I looked at it as like, oh, damn, he's pissed because that throw sucked. He threw it right into the dirt at his receiver's feet. And so that's what he was grimacing about. But I suppose others take that, and there was a tweet that was going around that I think the play that I'm exactly referring to has like 50,000 likes or whatever. And is a guy, doesn't really matter. Some dude, Brooks, probably goes to Texas, I guess, or something. I don't know. Anyways, Brooks Austin BA had a tweet that has like 30,000 likes and says, that doesn't look right. So I don't know if this dude's a doctor or if he's just like one of us and he's just clipping a screen. He's the film guy, apparently. I look at his tweet. So he's got a big following, so I'll default to that. But he posts this clip, says that doesn't look right, and then all the armchair doctors start rolling into town to tell you what they think that it is. And one of those included a former Packers quarterback in Kurt Binkert, who said Arch clearly has a shoulder injury. They definitely aren't disclosing it. He has zero power and has to put everything he can into it. Wouldn't be shocked if he strained it in camp. And then that led into the TV broadcast showed, that led into this conversation here where Sark debunks that. I think he was very happy with himself for the bathroom comparison. I don't know if that's an exact comparison, though, like us watching Arch on slow motion and you watching me go to the bathroom. But nevertheless.
Yeah, some of us are old enough. Maybe we do make faces when we have to pee or something.
I don't know.
The throw that people are alluding to is a throw that was at the ankles and the feet of a receiver, and it was almost like he didn't, oh, my God, I shouldn't have thrown it. Or he knew, like you said, that it was a very bad pass.
Yeah, I mean, it could look like he has a shoulder injury. It could look like he just said, oh, crap, that was a terrible throw. Like, it looks like it could be both those things. Maybe it was both those things, but I don't think it's like clear cut that he's got a shoulder injury. I'll default to the doctors out there who maybe notice other things. And I didn't watch intently like that for Arch's mechanics, and I'm not an expert in all that jazz anyway. So you have a former Packers quarterback who's at least saying, he's throwing like he's got an injury or something. I don't know that Sark would tell us fully if that was the case or not. So I don't know really what to take away from his press conference other than his joke there. But if you're somebody who believes that he is God's gift to quarterback and you've watched him play these last couple of weeks, and maybe you want to believe he has a shoulder injury because that would help explain some of the accuracy issues and just not being maybe as great as you hoped. Now, he had a nice little bounce back game. He wasn't happy with it. He talked about in the game or in the post game, it was a little bit sloppy, but I mean, he accounted for 5 touchdowns, including 1 on the ground, threw for a respectable number of yards. Definitely didn't blow you away, but it was an encouraging step after week 1 and some nice numbers on the surface, although, obviously there's a lot more to clean up for him.
Yeah, there's some guys running free against San Jose State. I think most Texas fans, if there was any kind of like 38-7, most probably, or whatever the score was, probably thought it was going to be a 58-3 game. But there we are with that. Now, who have we not discussed or said much about within the Big 12 that we want to give them a little bit of attention, whether it's for good or maybe not so good?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, because we do have we talk national college football, and we're going to always do that because it's just more interesting. And it's when you do a daily show, especially like as long as ours is every single day. If it was 15 minutes, we could probably just say Big 12 every day, or 30 minutes or something. But doing 3 hours, like, we're going to fill it out with as much content from all over the place as possible. But we know where our route with this show in the beginning was, and that was with the Big 12. And so I want to make sure we always cover everybody, because sometimes you just get lost in the biggest games and all that. So the Mojo rankings are in part going to do that every Wednesday when I have my twist on power rankings to look at every team 1 through 16, and we'll do some other things here and there. But we don't have enough time to go through everybody, and we won't. But I do think that Arizona deserves some love. Been really solid through their first couple weeks. Noah Fafita had a really nice game, so encouraging there. I think they're a team that's just sort of in the middle, and you don't quite know if they need to go a tick higher and they're on an upward trajectory, or if they're going to eventually be on a downward trajectory. But I do know this. They play Kansas State this week. So Kansas State's real, and Arizona's got to feel great about their chances, but it's still Kansas State. So I'm not going to just sit there and chalk that up as an Arizona win automatically. But Arizona, last I looked, I believe, at least as far as the ESPN matchup predictor, has them as like 60% favorites in this game.
I made my picks for this week on that office stop or whatever it's called, and I looked at that, and yes, Arizona's a 59.8% pick to beat Kansas State right now.
Yeah, it's office pool stop that I will hopefully be able to log into to have picks for those of us that got locked out. Sorry about that. Hopefully that's cleaned up when Paul gets back and everybody can be on board, but that definitely should be one of the games. So that's coming up here at the end of the week, and I think that's very intriguing because Arizona State has looked good. It's also a Friday night in Tucson. So you talk about, it can't get worse for K-State.
Yeah, it can. Yep.
It can, but it can get a lot better for Arizona as well. Or K-State can go win that game, and that's maybe a step to them kind of correcting things there. But I definitely think that Arizona deserves a little bit of love for their solid start to the beginning of the year. I also want to give a big shout out to UCF. There was the whole debacle of like not debacle, but there's the questions about who's going to start at quarterback at the beginning of the year. And then we got into the situation we did there in week number 1 where you have an injury to Cam Fancher and thought, Taven Jackson would be the guy who would maybe carry over into this second week after the way that he performed. And He sure as hell did, man. They looked really good. Now, it wasn't against the greatest competition in the world. I'm not going to pretend like they went out and they beat Alabama, but I thought UCF looked really solid. Jaden Nixon running the opening kickoff back and then having a monster yards per carry game on the ground as well. He was a really fun pickup from Western Michigan that I liked for them. And so I think UCF with a little bit of swagger coming out of this weekend and that win over, I know it was North Carolina A&T, but when you barely eked out a win against Jacksonville State the week prior, it feels good to beat somebody by 61 points, no matter who you are. So now UCF gets a couple weeks to prepare for North Carolina, which ought to be very interesting. Them getting a crack at Bill Belichick and company here in a couple weeks. So nice win by UCF to just handle their business and roll on along. And then I thought Brendan Sorsby looked a lot better for Cincinnati. I thought their receivers looked better as well. Nice win over Bowling Green for them by a couple of touchdowns. I'm thinking that they're right there in that middle mix as well. And I definitely think they're more likely to trend upward than backwards, although last year it very much slid backwards. But I think they played a good team in Nebraska. I know you poo-poo all over them because they're your favorite. We all do this reverse psychology thing with our teams where we
a reason to feel
say
that
they
way.
suck.
Yeah.
So when they don't suck, we're like feel better about it. But Nebraska does have a solid defense, and they have. And so I think Sorsby got a little bit of that, but I wanted to know how they would respond, and I think that Cincinnati answered the bell with a really nice response against the Falcons. So those were 2 or 3 of the teams.
All right, Houston,
yeah, we'll leave it there.
Houston.
Houston.
They
Yeah, I
have a
thought
home
Houston
game
looked solid.
Friday against Colorado.
I think Dean Connors was an excellent pickup for them. I don't know how much I mentioned in the offseason, but doing the Earl Campbell Award stuff, I saw a lot of Dean Connors at Rice last year in particular, and he seemingly every week was putting up like 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns. He was like the heart and soul of that Rice offense because they didn't have great quarterback play. So he was kind of the dude. And when he went to Houston, I was like, oh, that's interesting because he's right across, I mean, not even across town. It's way closer than that, but like he's right there in the city. And that was just a really smart pickup, I think, by Willie Fritz and company to go and get him. Wegman's not like shown out or had to at this point in time. So really the story for me was solid defense and Dean Connors doing Dean Connor things. And I think they don't have like electric quarterback play, but compared to how erratic it was last year, Wegman is a very steady hand versus.
That's what they needed.
Yes.
They didn't need the erratic, looked brilliant NFL
turnovers at the worst
arm,
time.
Donovan Smith, and then you blink the bet. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Donovan Smith would throw a pick at just the absolute worst time. And now I'm even blanking on their backup, their other starting quarterback from last year. His name escapes me. Do you remember? Huh?
Zion Chris?
Yes, Zion Chris.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep,
Yeah.
transfer.
Couldn't remember his name, but they both kind of had similar issues with hanging on to the football and all that. But that was a game that was kind of ugly for a large portion of it. No score until the second quarter, but eventually after halftime, Houston was able to put the throttle down and despite leaving some points on the board, took advantage of a good number of their drives. And so I thought they looked solid. I'm encouraged by Houston. I think they've been a quiet but very steady team through the first couple of weeks.
I like what I saw, and they're about to hopefully fill up that stadium on Friday with Colorado coming into town.
Yeah, I would hope so. I don't know if Dion can't pull the folks in. I don't know who's going to be perfectly honest with you. I also think that despite what we saw from Colorado this past weekend, that's actually a game that you feel like you can win.
Yep.
I think that should be every Big 12 game for everybody, honestly. But I do think that being at home and being on a Friday night, maybe there's a little magic that can happen and you pull a really big win over the Buffaloes. But I do also know this is my thing with Colorado last week and why I didn't have them lower in my Mojo rankings was I felt like even though they weren't super impressive and the loss to Georgia Tech, downright bad at times, I still felt like they had the other factors of Mojo, which is swagger. They still have confidence. I don't think you can say that about every team right now. But Colorado still had that. Now, had they turned around and like gotten beat or looked really bad in week 2, then they'd have to be, I think, clipped for that a little bit. But if you look at their post-game videos, you look at their celebration in the locker room and what happened with their third-string quarterback suddenly becoming maybe the savior of the season.
Was it Staub?
I think, Staub. I think that's a really cool story. Ryan Staub, the name to now know out of Buffalo. Not Juju Lewis or Caden Salter, but Ryan Staub, the hero for them.
I like the fact when they were doing a post-game interview after the game, Deion's right next to him and talked about how he's got some decisions to make, but he kind of knows what he's going to do, and how he was so excited for that kid to have success.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't hold on to the quarterback spot, I think he at least – I don't know. That's probably a really interesting situation for Deion to have to handle of a guy who clearly you paid money in the transfer portal to come in to play for you in Caden Salter, who did not look, though, good when we saw him in week number 1. And then which partially led to this whole conversation. And then Julian Lewis, who you pay a lot of money for, or others would have if you didn't. And he's not maybe quite ready just yet. So for Staub to come in, he may be the perfect wild card. And at the same time, maybe we're totally overreacting to them beating Delaware because week 1 was so ugly that week 2 just looked incredible in comparison. But I do think that's a really interesting story coming out of Boulder this week to monitor.
Yeah, I stayed up pretty late Saturday night, and then I just soaked some of those games in. Then Sunday, I go back and look at some of the social media. I just thought it was such a feel-good story for a young man. He was a highly rated player when he was a high school player. All right, we've done a little bit of them. We do have Andrew Vallet's poll results here in a second. Top 5s will resume when Paul's back with us on Wednesday. Craig will have you have the Mojo rankings, which is 1 through 16 on Wednesday. What is tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're going to look at the latest round of the crossover games.
Okay, conferences
the ACC,
and conferences.
Big 12,
yep.
SEC, Big 10. We got a handful of results from the opening weekend. It was not a good week for the Big 12 in week 1. And week 2 started off great, went sideways. But you know what? The ACC is a real contender for bad weekends as well. SEC, Big 10 will account for all of them, and so we'll just kind of sort through that. And that stuff matters for the big picture postseason conversations when you get into records versus fellow conferences and all that. So, we'll have that tomorrow. And I don't think that'll be recurring, though, because we're not going to have every week where it's
no, it's not going to be a lot of crossover. It's not, the less and less as you go on.
But maybe we still have conference rankings of some sort.
All right, when we come – no, is this it? Stay here? Okay. All right. But I look for the Mojo rankings. I thought was an incredible hit that will resume again on Wednesday. All right. Andrew Vallet with his poll results. I think I voted. I know I voted. Sometimes I get busy. And then we had a couple of things with Hal Mumme and technical. What's the bigger headache for Michigan? Growing pains at quarterback? Offensive line? Still believe in Bryce? Ranking slide? I said quarterback growing pains. That was not mine. I thought more than anything else was the offensive line. Seems like Oklahoma beat them up pretty much.
Yeah, you had the little dust up on the sidelines there at one point early on with Underwood and Justice Haynes, and I think maybe Haynes scored right after that, so that made that dissipate pretty quickly. And maybe I've got that timing wrong, but in my head, I watched a lot of football on Saturday. It all kind of runs together a little bit, but yeah, that little tiff. That's fine. He's a young quarterback. Everybody's fiery, big situation, big road game. But yeah, I think quarterback growing pains are just something. It's like that was the tipping point in my whole thing with Oklahoma and Michigan was yes, home field to some extent, but give me John Matier and his experience with a really good defense backing him versus Bryce Underwood and his lack of experience, even with a really good defense backing him. Yep. So I just felt Matier was the veteran. He's played a lot more. Bryce Underwood's got a lot of things to like, but he's a young pup right now, and it's gonna take some growing up.
And Michigan's offense last year was terrible, and he will help perhaps get them underway here with their offense. All right, the other one. Not sure if I voted. Yeah, I did. If a Hall of Fame offered you a private all-access tour, which one would you pick among these? Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame, Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. They had some inductions over the weekend, or the Hockey Hall of Fame. I picked the Baseball Hall of Fame. I've been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and there's really no comparison. Baseball has so much more history and memorabilia. That's what my vote was. Craig?
Yeah, I'm seeing this for the first time. It'd be one of the top two for sure. I think I'd even have hockey at 3. And the Naismith at 4.
What if I
hate
inserted College Football Hall of Fame? These are
the
all
one in Atlanta. Well, that'd be number 1.
Yeah,
because I didn't have time to go to that when we were there last time. It was right next door too, but the operating hours and all that, it just didn't jive. So that was unfortunate to be like literally I could throw a rock and hit the window of the front entrance and walked by it every day, but couldn't actually ever go into it. So that would be on the top of the list. But I don't know. I think I default to my baseball love, original love of baseball, and Cooperstown just has that name recognition to me. So to go see some of the old stuff from the early days of baseball, I think would be really, really cool. And not a place I'll probably end up ever going up to Cooperstown, New York. Like, I don't know. I don't foresee myself. I can see myself screwing around and end up in Canton somehow or another for some reason, but not Cooperstown, New York. So yeah, I think I would go with that one, but the pro football would be, that would be a great second spot to go to.
So those two polls, Andrew puts one of them up pretty damn early. Sometimes you got to be able to see it and get in it and do it. And then another one that follows up. Now, a couple of quizzes. How much knobs, switches, and buttons are typically on a Formula One steering wheel? Jesus.
Don't have the slightest freaking clue.
Let me see. What does my Ford Explorer have?
12.
All right. My Ford Explorer, let's see, knobs. I don't think there's a lot. I'm going to say 5.
25.
Well, obviously,
if you would have showed me that, I would have thought that was like some video game carry on.
Yeah, that looks like.
I didn't know that doesn't look like a steering wheel to me at all. That looks badass for a steering wheel. But yeah, I wouldn't have the slightest idea. You know what? I still haven't seen the F1 movie. So did these steering wheels, are they featured in there? So yeah, I would have. If I saw the movie, I would have been like, okay.
You know what? You need one. Turn the damn thing on and go like that fast, like 200 miles an hour. All right. So I was just absolutely just awful on that one. Yeah, I love that noise. I love the sound. Rejection. All right, now, actor Burt Reynolds played sparingly for Florida State.
FSU.
Yep. Paul would love that one and like that one, but you got them all right there, that area, and that was easy. I didn't have to even read the rest of it. Andrew, there you go. Burt Reynolds, and yeah, at the part of The Longest Yard and much more, an incredible actor, and also hell of a football player. So there we are with those two quizzes. The first one I just had no chance, and the other one was, to me, very easy.
I think if I had seen F1, I could have gotten that one. I'd be on a perfect streak or pretty close to it right now, but still haven't checked that out just yet, but I will. And I know Andrew and the Valades love some F1, right? I remember y'all talking about that at Big 12 Media Days and having gone to races and stuff. So, yeah, it seems like a really cool event. I had no idea their steering wheels looked like that, though. That's pretty cool looking to see that picture. And, yeah, Burt Reynolds, that's when I think our younger crowd is trying to figure out, like, where our knowledge sort of stops and starts, of, like, where it's like a layup versus where they're going to, like, get us. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that Burt Reynolds one, that was one that we all had down.
No, I didn't even – as soon as I saw Burt Reynolds play, that ding, ding, ding. All right, thank you, Andrew, for that. Garrett Ross for putting together everything he does. Of course, tonight, 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. Brandon Rowe. I think Brandon probably was 83% good today. That's a B-. No, I appreciate it, especially when we had to kind of pivot a couple of different times.
In the A's, based on the early jockeying with the feed and all of that with Hal Mumme,
he knocked Hal Mumme off the air. That was horrible. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Thank you to our great audience and our sponsors. Back tomorrow, 365 Sports. Good night.